the division know on Georgia Stat that I just went live and I emailed out the link. That way it's good to go. So, all right. So welcome. I'm excited about the next several hours we're going to spend together on having a successful push week. And before we get into kind of the instructional teaching, I'm just going to go over the overall agenda. We're going to have 5 30-minute topics that we're going to dig into. One being kind of push week preparation mentality and leading into execution. We'll also have 30 minutes on phone skills. So how to be better at the phone, how to understand the phone, how many calls it actually takes, and the different types of calls you make, and where you can map out the calls to actually happen to hit whatever sales goal you want. This is something that could be applied not just during a push week, but also just on a normal week. Because you're like, hey, I need to make X amount of money this week. How many calls do I need to make? When do I need to make them? You break it down. We're going to talk about the phone. 30 minutes. We're going to do 30 minutes on recommendations. One of my favorite topics to discuss and talk about. We're going to talk about, kind of networking your way into $1 million plus clientele consistently, where you're never dealing with somebody who can't afford a homemaker set or bigger, right? That's always a fun position to be in. We're going to talk about, the demo skills and how to do a couple of things on the presentation. This will be stuff that I actually used in my presentation as a representative, some things that I learned from key high-performing reps over the years, but how to identify the need, how to make sure that no matter what situation you're in, you set sales expectations for every client you go into, how to really build value, how to do the try-close, which is where you sell instead of selling, like an essentials homemaker signature. How do you sell a homemaker signature ultimate consistently? How do you close on that? And then really from there, the last topic will be on closing in general, how to sell to Cutco owners, how to break things down on paper to make deals and packages for different customers and clientele as well. I'm also going to talk a little bit about, cookware and flatware and how to add those into what's called package deals. And this is something where if you want to have, kind of those crazy orders, right? The 4, 5, 6K orders that tend to happen during pushes, you could do this. And there's a simple method to being able to present them. And it does not involve having to learn a whole new price list, does not involve having to learn an entire presentation on top of the knife presentation or to sell cookware and flatware. So I'm excited about the next several minutes we're going to spend together. So that being said, let's start off by talking about preparation. And when I think about, the SC2, for us, that is the biggest sales month of the year. So really sales weeks. It's 2.5 weeks. It's where every single office competes and goes up against every other office in the region. Everybody descends here in Atlanta. They come together. Our regional manager will be there in town, who's my boss. All of my fellow division managers, people that are both longtime friends, colleagues. I've been to many of their weddings. I was actually the best man in one of the weddings. I was in the wedding of another one, and hope to soon one day be in the weddings of 2 others, which is pretty awesome. So these are kind of my comrades in the business. They'll be coming together and bringing their entire division. And so it is the main event. The best trophies happen during these events. The biggest sales reports happen during SC2. Really everybody comes together and steps up to have an amazing sales report. And the goal that I have for each of you guys, for those of you on the video, for those of you here in the office, is to have a big enough 2 weeks where you make as much money in those 2 weeks as your buddies make all summer. And you leave those 2.5 weeks where you're now in a place where you can work part-time and still make more than full-time plus income. I'm talking working part-time, making $1,000 paychecks every single week. That's the type of growth that you can have over the next 2 weeks. SC2 is typically one of the hardest 2.5 weeks periods of our reps' careers. You'll question yourself. It'll be an emotional roller coaster. You'll have highs, you'll have lows. You'll end up questioning whether or not you like the job. You'll want to quit. If you don't want to quit at least 17 times during the contest, you probably don't care enough to do well. You'll hate me. You'll hate your manager. You'll hate Cutco. You'll be like, man, this stuff's not even that sharp, right? Like you'll just like everything bad that you could possibly imagine, every negative thought that could go into your head will happen. You'll question everything. At the same time, you'll have the most amazing experience ever. You'll learn growth, and you'll learn about your strengths and weaknesses. You'll find out so much about yourself through the process of the personal journey that you go on. Will certainly outweigh the physical strain that you'll put on yourself, the mental, emotional strain, but also more importantly, the income that you'll earn will pale in comparison to the enlightenment that you'll experience through the process. When I think about the most stressful times of my life, that's where I've learned the most about myself. It's, you don't really learn a lot by having things come easily, right? I've always said that I've learned more on demos where I had no sales than on demos where I sold a lot. I've learned more about how to improve my skill set. I've learned more about, my skill set in a sport, in tough physical games where we've lost versus games that we've won, like blowing people out, right? My favorite games in basketball were games that came down to the wire. Won or lost, by the way. The ones that came down to the wire were always way more exciting to me, and I learned more from them. The games where we just blew them out by like 30 or 40. Soccer games that were physically contested all the way through the end, I learned so much more than games that were, just a blowout from the jump. Okay. Because when you go through that process, you find out about yourself, you find out your strengths, you find out your weaknesses, and you can take yourself to another place. Okay. You go in one way and you come out another. A lot of times people think that, in order to be successful, right? They think that if you're at, position A and you want to be at position B, right? So if you're going from basically A to B, right? They think that success is a straight line, right? And that's the idea. That's the goal, is to find the shortest route from point A to point B, right? That's what they teach you in math and physics and everything else when you're in school. So to be successful, to go from A to B, it's just a straight line. And that's how you're. Unfortunately, this is kind of how it is. All right. So to get to there, it's kind of more like this, right? Where, you've got things that are going well, things that aren't going well, things that are going terribly. You're like wanting to give up. Then you're like, oh man, this is the most amazing place in the world, right? You have that like $5,000 or $6,000 order. Then it's like a no sale or a canceled order. That's a really big appointment. And then all of a sudden you end up over here, and then you look back and you're like, holy crap, I can't believe how far I've come. Think about it. For those of you that, are in grade school, right? Think about when you were in grade school, you thought that was like the biggest deal. Remember when you went to junior high? It's like stepping up to junior high, right? And that's a big deal. Then you go to high school and you're like, oh, high school's scary. Now, some of you are in the same grades that you were same school since you were like in kindergarten or whatever. So for you, it's like, this is the same people, no big deal. But I remember going from elementary school to high school, I remember being so nervous. And then I got there and I'm like, oh, this is okay. This is fun. And then I remember going off to college and being like, oh no, this is going to be so awesome, but really freaking scary. And I got there and I'm like, oh, here I am. But if I were to look back on my former self and explain kind of what I was able to do, little things like, I went and made my own dinner. My former self would be like, dude, how'd you learn how to cook? My former self would have been like, so wait a minute, you learned how to talk to a female? Like, when did that happen? Like, that's like scary, or it'd be things like, I was able to coordinate a party where we had, 50 people or 60 people or whatever come over and hang out and be like, dude, you have friends? Like it was like things like that like my former self was been so like nervous about, writing papers. Think about that. Remember when your teacher first tells you, hey, the assignment tonight is to read 5 pages in the textbook, when you're like in grade school and you're like, no, It's so much, right? And then eventually you get that teacher that's like a bulldog, right? And they're like, your assignment this month is to read this book and to write a 10-page paper. And you're like, I hate this human being, right? And then you get past it. And then you go on to college. And so eventually the reason I'm explaining this to you is because, you know, the human mind and the human body for that matter too, it's like plastic, not elastic. See, when you take a rubber band and you stretch it, right, it goes right back to its normal positioning, right? You know, I mean, you could stretch it out really if you keep working on it, but I mean, for the most part, you stretch it out here and it just snaps right back, right? See, that's most people. Most people don't really stretch themselves beyond kind of that initial place. But see, the real truth is that that threshold for pain tolerance, risk tolerance, and excitement tolerance, it's like plastic, meaning once you stretch it, it stays there, right? For those of you that have run before, remember the first time you had to run a mile, how tough that may have been? Some of you guys are good runners, so you're running like 3, 4, 5 miles. Me, I'm like an alligator. I'm good for like 5-foot bursts, and then I need to shut it down for like a few days, right? It's like, no, I'm done. I'm good. I've done exactly what I want to do, right? And for me, that's how running has always been, you know. And so that was a tough barrier for me to get through when it came to playing soccer competitively in high school, because I never enjoyed running. I mean, I'm talking like within a minute of being on a treadmill, I'm like, this is miserable. Don't like being on it. Ready to get off it, you know. And so when I found for myself, though, was playing soccer, I could run for an entire game and be okay. And I'd look down and realize I was running miles. And I eventually found a coach that would push me. And I'll never forget, we had this morning where we would get in early and run our conditioning drills. And we used to run the cross country course. The cross country course was about what is a cross country course? 3.1 miles? Is that what a course is for cross country? I think that's what it is, right? So 3.1 miles is how long the cross country course is. Well, some of the people on the soccer team, and I actually wasn't one of them, I'm surprised looking back at my former self, but they cut corners on the run. And our coach happened to be in amazing shape. And so what he did is he waited till everybody was like way ahead. And then he started going. He started running. He was going to run the course. And he was doing it as a way to say, hey, you know what, guys, I'm in this with you. This was like a, hey, because I mean, he was like, when I say in amazing shape, I mean, this guy was probably 40 years old, still running 6-minute miles, that sort of thing. I mean, really in shape. And so he started running, and he caught up, and he found some people were cutting off part of the street, right? There was a right you could take instead of going straight, and it would cut off like about a half mile to a mile or so of this course. So as soon as he found out people were cheating and scamming, right, he waited for everybody to finish. And as people were finishing, he would say, hey, by the way, just keep going on the soccer course. We're going to keep running. And so a lot of people that were cutting corners, they were on the field, and they were on the field for the longest, because he waited for every single person that finished the normal cross-country course to come down to the actual soccer field and had to run another 3.1 miles around the soccer field. So, you know, that day I ran 6.2 miles when I hated running any event, right? And what was funny is, as I was stressed, blistered, a little bit on my feet, that lasted approximately a day or two, and then I was totally normal. I was back to like, okay, we could do it again. And I learned a lot from that. One, I learned that you couldn't cut corners if you wanted to get, you know, the results you wanted. Our team had not been performing that well that year. Now, what's great about it is that set an example. That was the only year, by the way, in 4 years that our team went far into the state playoffs. Was that year that he set that example. The other thing that I learned is that if you want to be great, you got to put in all the work. You got to be willing to do other things that normal people won't do in order to have what other people can't have later. And the last thing that I learned about myself is that there's no good way to do a wrong thing. Okay? So, and that is something, guys, that, when it comes to getting yourself ready for anything important in life, it's important to make sure you put in the right preparation. And so what I want to talk about, first of all, is how do you set yourself up to have a 10 or 15 or $20,000 2-week sales push? Because, guys, that's not normal, right? I mean, you think about how big that is. From an income standpoint, you're talking, even if you're at zero, making $2,000 all the way up to $5,000 or $10,000 in 2 weeks. That's stupid money for a high school kid, college kid, right? I mean, it's dumb, right? I mean, to have that type of income opportunity for something as simple as knives, right, doesn't make much sense, but it's there, and we have people that do it. So it starts with preparation. And so if you're taking notes, a couple of things that you need to prepare. First of all, you need to prepare yourself. Okay, so it starts with preparing yourself. And and when you prepare yourself, the best thing that you need to do is you need to take care of yourself in all facets of your life. Okay? I was talking to a good friend of mine, Trent Booth, and he has something that he calls his True North exercise, where well, what he does is he maps out the following areas of his life, and I'm going to ask you guys to do the same thing. There's several components of your well-being in your life, so I want you to, in all areas, rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 on how you feel in the following areas of your life. Okay. And don't beat yourself up on them. I mean, for example, one of them is your family relationships. Okay. How is your familial relationships? And guys, again, guys, it's one of those things where it's going to be different for everybody, but put your relative rating, relative feeling. For example, if like your relationship with your mother is strained, okay, well, is it any more strained than normal? That's what I'm asking. Is the relationship with, your brother, your sister, your people that matter to you, loved ones, is it any more strained than normal? Because if it's always a shitty relationship, well, then it is a shitty relationship. You can't really change that, right? But is it relatively better or worse on a scale of 1 to 10? So family relationships, okay? And beside that, what's something that you could do, say, or prepare to help take that just a little bit better in the next week? Okay? Maybe it's just something as simple as writing a little handwritten note saying, hey, look, I know we haven't been on the best of terms recently, but I just want to give you, just let you know that I do care about you and want the best for you, right? Maybe that's something that's there. So, because the whole idea is you don't want to be going into a competition with heavy shoulders. I've always found that when I go into something in a better place, I feel better and I get better results because of it. So maybe you've got a relationship that you're in, a significant other, right? How is that relative relationship versus how it has been? Some of you guys are single, you're like, I am good to go, right? And that's good, right? If you're young, you're single, I would not get into a serious relationship right before any big major event in your life. Okay? Just like I wouldn't recommend somebody who's single getting into a relationship right before they leave for college. Dumb idea. Okay? It's a great way to ruin the first several months of your relationship or first several months of your college experience. Okay? It is. Okay? If you're in a relationship, I wouldn't say break it off right before you go to college. That's dumb too. Because now you're ruining those first couple months because you're taking yourself out of your whack, your homeostasis, right? Your status quo. But personal relationship, okay, how is it relative 1 to 10? That's one. Finances, and that's another area of your life. How are your finances on a scale of 1 to 10? Now, here's what's great. Whenever you're going into a big sales competition, that gives you that's a way you can create completely different situations for yourself. I've had a couple of push PCs with people already in the pilot, and I've actually found that some people are in a situation to make between $3,000 and $7,000 in 2 weeks. That's life-changing money for somebody who's below the age of 25. Okay? For some, that's life-changing money, period. To have $5,000 to $7,000 extra, right? I mean, that could be game-changing for some people. You know, when I talk to district managers, I talk to them about, can they put away $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 over the next 2.5 weeks? It becomes pretty exciting, you know, but where's your financial health right now? And what could it be like 2.5 weeks from now? And just thinking about that. That's the question I ask yourself. What could it be like if I hit my goals? Okay. Here's another fun one to do for that, by the way. How am I going to reward myself for committing? So on that financial element, how am I going to reward myself for working really hard? You know, like, for example, I'll just tell you guys that whenever I come up with my yearly projections and when I think about my summer, I work really hard during the summer months, like really hard. And I used to have buddies of mine in college that would give me crap about it. They didn't understand why I worked so hard. But I'll tell you, every single one of them now respects the fact that I did when I was younger because of the way that I've been able to set myself up now that I'm at my age now. And I don't hear any single one of them saying, you know, Trey, I really wish you had, gone to the bars with us more in college instead of actually working. I don't have any one of them that said, you know, Trey, I wish that, I wish you'd gone to the beach with us more during the summer months when you were in school instead of building your business. You know, none of them ask that now. Things that they ask now are things like, hey, is there any way that you can make your schedule work so that we can all get together at this time? I'm like, yeah, let me think about it. Yeah. Because I run my own business now. I never have to worry. I never have to feel guilty. I never have to honestly hold back on anything because I worked hard when I was young. And that was a big deal for me because, you know, unfortunately for me, I did experience a tragic loss when I was young. When I was 19 years old, I lost my dad. Right? I mean, one of the greatest men that I've ever known or been around. And people always say, man, that should have been tough. I'll be honest. It sucked at the time, but I wouldn't have it any other way now. The reason and trust me, I would give away everything that I have if, he was still alive, but I can't change that. All I can do is move forward from where I'm at. And I will say this, and I've told people this, I'd rather have an amazing dad for 19 years of my life than a shithead for 100 years of my life. And luckily enough, I had the former. I had the amazing dad for 19 years, somebody that taught me a lot of great life lessons, somebody that taught me how to treat people, somebody that taught me how to read and understand with empathy what certain people go through. And that meant a lot to me, and so one of the things is knowing that he passed at 48, I made a commitment at the age of 19 that I was going to work my butt off until I was 30, 35, 40, whatever it was going to take, so that by the time I started having a family and kids, I would never have to miss anything. I could coach them in sports. I could be there for them on the weekends. I could be there for family dinners. I could do everything for them because I know how important it was for me. And I also know that my dad made conscious decisions to sacrifice his career and opportunities within life for us. And I said, I don't ever want to have to be in a position where I have regrets or have to look and say, man, I had to sacrifice something. I wanted to be able to be set up in a place where I could have everything and be able to provide everything for my family, for my future wife, for everybody. That was a decision I made at 19. And I'd been thinking about it when I was younger, but that solidified it in my mind, you know? And that kind of leads into the next part of the business, which, or the part of this exercise, which is how is your personal health? Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, are you taking care of yourself? And there's a couple ways you break down health. Break it down nutritionally. And guys, you're young enough, most of you are young enough where you can get away with whatever you want to eat. And you're totally fine. And you know what? That's that's totally cool. Having that ability to eat whatever you want, man, take advantage of it sometimes. Like if you really love, like what's your favorite thing to eat? Like guilty pleasure. Pasta. Lots of cheese on the pasta.
Yeah, it's like the same thing.
Big cheesy pasta. So eat a big old vat of it. I'm talking like just take a day. Like I'm talking like get a big old, like make it a box. I'm talking like, something is big enough you could drown like a dog in, right? And just eat all of it. Okay. Overload yourself. What'll end up happening, by the way, is you'll get sick and you'll be like, I think I'm good on the pasta for a long time. But I'm not saying you'll ever have that indulgence. What I'm saying is that delayed gratification that happens from eating clean, eating healthy, and then indulging, it's so much more rewarding than just eating gluttony all the time, right? So nutritionally, are you taking care of yourself? So eating good foods, staying away from a lot of the fried stuff, meal prepping, and guys, that, again, make this relative to what you normally are. Okay. For example, if you're a fast food, lunch and dinner, 7 days a week kind of person right now, to say, hey, for the next 2 weeks or whatever, I'm gonna only eat prepared meals. That's not gonna go well. You're gonna end up messing yourself, be out of whack anyway. Give you an example of that. When we were in high school, our high school basketball team, before every single game, we used to go eat and crush burgers. Blame it on Michael Jordan. He used to eat steaks and potatoes and all that stuff before every single basketball game. So what do we think we need to do? We need to be like Michael Jordan, eat a big unhealthy meal, like load up, right? And so we would do that. And then finally the coach is like, hey, we need to do what the girls team's doing, because the girls team was just killing it, blowing teams out. And they said a lot of their success was due to the fact that they were eating at this Super Salad. You guys heard of this place, Super Salad? Right? It's like this, like almost like a green tomatoes type or sweet tomatoes type restaurant, where it's just a big salad bar, right? And so we go in there and this whole men's basketball team eats at this salad bar. And every single one of us was in the bathroom like sick, like 30 minutes later, because it completely threw off our entire nutrition plan, right? And so I'm not saying you need to completely change, but can you make healthy, conscious decisions? One simple thing that you could do is simply sit down and actually put healthy foods into your nutritional diet. Okay, so instead of carrying around unhealthy snacks, can you grab healthy snacks to eat in between appointments? So health. Physically, are you doing something? This goes under health, by the way, but physically, are you taking care of yourself? Making sure that, are you on a scale of 1 to 10, relative to normal, how are you taking care of yourself? Are you going out for a brisk walk? Okay. I know that's something that they actually have a company across the street used to do that, America Megatrends. They would make every single employee go out for a walk around their schedule. And they would go out for a walk twice a day during the workday, to make sure that they were able to, kind of get the blood flowing. Okay. So again, I'm not expecting you to start working out 5 days a week or 7 days a week if you've not been doing that, but can you do something where you're out moving around at least a couple times a day? Okay. And then, of course, from a sickness standpoint, right, health wise, are you taking care of that? Are you making sure that you're going to the doctor if you need to be going to the doctor, you're taking the medicine you need to be taking if you're taking the medicine? Are you eating daily vitamins? Are you getting enough vitamins? Little things like that can make a big difference. Okay. The next key group, okay, or the next key component of this True North exercise is your is business wise. How would you compare yourself business wise on a scale of 1 to 10? And for us, I'll break it down into a couple key areas. One is your recommendations. How confident do you feel right now in recommendations on a scale of 1 to 10, right? Or maybe you make your relative rating. How many recommendations do you average per appointment? And that becomes your scale of 1 to 10. 10 being means you're getting 10 or more. 9 means you're getting an average of 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? How many recommendations are you averaging per appointment? That becomes your scale 1 to 10. Next one, how many calls does it take you to book up a demo right now? Knowing your phone ratio. 1 or 0 would be you don't know what your phone ratio is. 2 would be that, maybe it's taking you 15 or 20 calls to book up a demo. 5 maybe that it's taking you, 12 to 15. 10 means that you're booking an average of 5. For every 5 calls you make, you book 1 is probably like a 10, right? So how many calls does it take you to book up a demo? Another key area of the business is number of contacts, number of names and numbers. How many people do you have on your list currently, and how many can you get to by July 11th? Because the push actually starts on the 11th of July. So how many can you get on your list? I would say if you've got 300 or more, that would be a 10. If you've got 200 or more, that would be like an 8. Okay, 100 or more, that would be like a 5, right? Or 7.5 would be 200 maybe. 100 or more would be a 5. If you've got like 50 names numbers right now, that'd be like a 2, right? If you're like, I have nobody to call, that would be 0, right? But the relative wise, and that includes your recommendations, by the way. And if you're at a place where you're not real fired about where it is, we're going to talk here in a little bit about creation of lists so you can take it higher too. Your close. How confident are you on your close on a scale of 1 to 10? So when it comes to closing sales, how confident are you? 1 to 10. When it comes to your average order, so selling sets on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate it? So that's kind of your business wise. And then the last little part of the business one is if you were to rate yourself on your ability to work independently, 1 to 10, where is it at? And guys, I'll be honest, when I was a new rep, my first whole summer, my ability to work independently was bouncing on 0. Okay. I couldn't do it. Adi mentioned earlier, I hated making phone calls. I didn't like making phone calls. I remember my original manager, Matt King, I was so nervous to call recommendations, so nervous that my manager, Matt, had to make a phone call and pretend to be me because that's how nervous I was. And I was so nervous somebody telling me no. Okay? He had to actually physically make a call. And it was so funny because the first person he called was somebody that actually knew me. He's like, hey, this is Trey. And they're like, oh, hey, Trey. And he's like, you know this lady? And I'm like, and I didn't know. But apparently she knew me. It was somebody that I got recommended to from church, and she actually knew of me. I'm like, crap. But he ended up booking up for me. And afterwards, he's like, dude, if I could book up pretending to be you, you could book up. And that gave me a little bit of confidence. I'm like, you know what? I can do this. Okay. So inability to work independently. Like I said, I was at a 0. But see, what did help me out with that is I also knew I was at a 0. I was self-aware enough to say, you know what? If I don't have that accountability from the office, I'm not going to do it. And so that helped me. Here's another key area. So right now we've done family, we've done finance, we've done health, we've done educational and / business-wise. Let's do social contribution. So when it comes to social contribution, something I'm going to ask you guys to do is find something that means something to you. And can you dedicate your efforts over the next 2.5 weeks to that? I'll give you a quick example. I had a good friend of mine, Ryan McClary, who was an assistant manager my first summer as a district. And his father, unfortunately, had passed away from cancer. And so his mom became heavily involved with the American Red Cross. And so he actually donated a portion of his sales back to the American Red Cross for those 2.5 weeks. And so he made that part of his mission, was that, and he told every one of his customers, hey, just so you know, I'm going to take a percentage of whatever I sell and make during this push and donate it back. He ended up going out and selling, I think, $16,000. So he made, I think, $7,000 or $8,000. He wrote a check at the end of those 2.5 weeks for $500 to the American Red Cross as an 18-year-old or 19-year-old. You know, they were so impressed by that. Maybe you want to dedicate something to your church, or something that's a fundraiser that your church is doing, and that becomes something that means a lot to you, and you want to donate that. You know, maybe there's a group, maybe your fraternity does something at your university that's meaningful. Maybe it's an event, a formal gathering, a charitable group, and you use that as your inspiration and motivation to get you to work harder and donate a percentage back to that charitable donation, right? Or to that charity. You know, I know for us here in this office, one of the things that I actually like is I donate money every single month to the Front Row Foundation. Front Row Foundation is a really awesome charity that puts people in the front 2 rows or 3 rows of their most epic experience they would ever want to go to, whether it be a concert, sporting event. We sponsored and helped raise $6,000 for a local person to go to see Ellen DeGeneres. And she really wanted to meet Ellen, so she went to a taping of the show and got a chance to meet her. And you know, it was included a limo ride to the taping. I mean, it was really pretty cool. You know, so I just donate money every month on that. But can you find something specifically for these 2 weeks that really means something to you? I know for me, I had a chance just recently to go to the Humane Society, the little adoption center that's right up the road from where I am in Swanee. And I got a chance to meet Buddha and Irving and a couple of these dogs that are just these amazing dogs that don't have anybody take care of them. You know, nobody's willing to help them. And I'm not in a position right now where I'm going to adopt another dog. I probably will at some point in the fall, but not right now. So what I am going to do, though, is I'm going to make a donation to the charity or to them based on how well our office does. You know, it may be 500, it may be 1,000, it may be a couple hundred. Based on how well the whole organization does, I'm going to be making a donation to that. Okay, so finding something that matters to you socially that you want to contribute to. Okay? And then the last one, guys, is faith, right? And faith is a touchy subject. My personal belief is I think you need to allow people to be who they are. I think that, you know, if somebody believes a certain way and they're convicted in that belief, I'm not going to change that belief, but I'm also going to accept them so long as they're a good person. Okay? I'm a big believer that if somebody is Jewish and they take care of people, then they're every bit as amazing as somebody who's Muslim and they take care of people. And they're every bit as amazing as somebody who's Christian and they take care of people. I do feel like if there is an all-powerful being that is above, that makes the decision as to who gets to go into heaven or not go into heaven, or if there is a heaven or anything like that, I do feel like they'll probably be pious and humble enough to say, you know what, you had some misinformation, bud, but I'm still going to let you slide because you took care of people. That's my personal belief. It's probably wrong, but at least I feel strongly about it. And I will say this. I do know that what I feel most excited about is that when I pray, or when I set my intentions, or when I do my internal reflections and thoughts for people, I feel a lot better about my own self. Because I know when I think about other people, when I sit down and I say, hey, you know what, thinking about insert blank, right? This person, I wish them the best. I hope they get the guidance that they're looking for from wherever they need to get it from to be inspired to be a better person. I know it makes it more about just me, you know, and one of the ways that I do that is I write down appreciation every morning. You know, I write down an appreciation list every single morning of things that I'm grateful for. Sometimes they're pretty selfish. Sometimes it's very dumb, right? Or very trite. Like some mornings I write down, I'm appreciative of caffeine, right? The caffeine's amazing, right? Or sometimes I'll write down, you know what? I'm glad that my grandma is over 80 years old and still alive and kicking. I'm appreciative of that. Sometimes, I'll write down, I'm appreciative that Tyson did not wake me up before the alarm to go outside. Sometimes it's simple stuff, but I just know when I practice appreciation, I get my day off to a great start because I'm not starting with negativity. I'm not starting with that alarm blaring. And that's like the first thing I'm thinking about. For me, that alarm, which is actually a song that I actually enjoy, it gets me up and it reminds me, oh, I need to be appreciative. And so that's what I do every morning. As soon as I wake up, I hop up, I make the bed real quick so I don't climb back in. And then I write down what I appreciate. And so right there, boom, I'm accomplishing a task right away. And I'm being grateful for things that are good in my life or things that are good around me in life. And it's hard to be in a bad mood when you have that starting for you. It doesn't matter what else is going on. It's hard to start that in a bad way. And that's a version of spirituality, I think, in a way, because it's meaning it's more than just the selfish ego of where we are currently. It's appreciating everything around us. And so where is your relative faith and where you want to be? Rating yourself in those areas is really key to preparing yourself to do something amazing in our business or do something amazing in the business. Okay. So, so those are a couple big key things on preparing yourself, on preparing your family. I think it's really important that you make sure that you let friends and family know, hey, I'm going to be working really hard. It's something I'm choosing to do. It's not something that's being forced on me. Because the reality is that when you go through and map this out with your manager, you map out the push, you map out the plan, you ultimately choose to do or not to do that path. And if you make a commitment to doing it, you need to make sure you're letting mom and dad, significant others know, hey, look, I'm choosing to work really hard. I know one of the things that helped me whenever I was in a relationship, talking to that significant other about how busy things are going to be. I had to let them know that was just how I'm wired. And I used to let them know, I'd say, hey, look, if I was an accountant, I'd be incredibly busy during tax season. The month of April, I wouldn't be chilling by the beach. If I was, playing a professional sport, playoff season, completely dialed in. If somebody is a politician, there's certain times of year, election campaign being one of them, where they're grinding, right? As a student, sometimes it's hard because, unless it's studying for exams, the significant other will think, well, why are you working so hard? But see, what I found is that when you're a student, significant others don't ever say, man, you're really studying so hard. Quit studying so hard. Why are you well, maybe they do say that. But they understand if you're trying to get a good grade. So sometimes you just gotta let people know, hey, I'm passionate about doing something special these next 2.5 weeks. And I'm gonna work so hard that when we get done, I'm taking out the whole family for dinner. Conor McGregor likes to say in his career fight, it's gonna be steak and eggs in the morning for breakfast, right? And the whole point is he's saying, I'm working so hard in my preparation for this training, for this fight, that afterwards we're going to celebrate. And for us, in our division, we're going to celebrate. We rented out the Georgia Theater up in Athens. It's a rooftop, restaurant lounge, overlooks the whole skyline there. You probably know of it, right? So it's a pretty cool place. We got the Lake Hartwell payoff that's happening at SC3. The big old mansion that's going to be up there. That's going to be a lot of fun. Okay? It's going to be an epic celebration. But you got to prep and say, look, I'm going to be working really hard. Okay. But after September 29th or September 30th, we're going to take you out. We're going to do something special. Okay. I know in the pilot, we're planning on doing a little pool party get together right after the conference is over. Right. Just to kind of, hey, let's just have a good time. Okay. So preparing friends, family, loved ones on what's going to take place. and also asking for their help. That's another thing. It's like, hey, I'm trying so hard to do something special that any and all help you can get would be amazing. You know, perhaps it's having them think about people that they know. Maybe it's going back through their cell phone with them and having them write down people that they know and getting you an extra 50, 100, 200 additional names and numbers. That can happen. Okay? You know, preparing your vehicles, right? Getting an oil change if you need to get an oil change is really important. You know, getting the tires done if the tires need to get done, really important. Okay, so that way that part's knocked out. Okay? And the last thing, as far as preparation I've got, is just preparing your attack list, making sure you have enough names and numbers. And there's a document that came out. I know some of you guys already have it, but it's this one right here. It's called Building a Massive Attack List to help you get, helping you get enough names and numbers. So this is helping you get an additional 300 additional people that you know. Okay? And there's also another thought jogger list that you've got that you can use. This thought jogger list right here, right, has a whole bunch of additional people that you may not have thought of, that goes from everywhere from things that are really random that you would never call or didn't even know, may not even have, right? To things that could actually lead you to a bunch of additional people. So, you know, the purpose of this building a massive attack list of 300 to 500 people, this one goes from everything from going back to school, thinking about people you went to school with, you know, thinking about people that are in your neighborhood, helping to talk to your parents about people they know, thinking about everybody you know and yourself. So as far as school goes, going to and seeing all of your school faculty. Okay? How do you do that? Well, you just go to your school's website. You can look up faculty. Once you find faculty, you can look them up on white pages. If they're a listed person, they're listed. There's nothing wrong with giving them a shout, saying, hey, I don't know if my name rings a bell, but I actually had you in science class a couple years ago. You know, guys, I saw my high school principal. I saw my biology teacher. And when I saw my biology teacher, Mr. Eklund, I pulled up and he did not have the most amazing place. You know, he had one of those old school blue station wagons. You guys know what I'm talking about? With the wood paneling on them, right? You see them like the old school movies. Think of Griswold, right? In Summer Vacation, right? You know, but, you know, when I did the demo, I did know and I saw that he had one of those real big red Craftsman tool chests. You know what I'm talking about? And for me, that really made it clicked in my mind. You know what? People spend money on things they're going to use a lot. See, he didn't care that much about having a great car. You know, he also didn't have the money to constantly be replacing it. And so when I saw my teachers, for them, it was all about, hey, Miss Jones, I know that being a teacher, you know, having things of value matter, but also more importantly, not having to replace stuff matters. You know, because you don't have the money to constantly be replacing things. You don't have the money to constantly be eating out every single meal. That was a big deal. So faculty is great. If you haven't seen your doctor, your dentist, all of your doctors and dentists, your orthodontist, those are amazing people to show it to. Your pastor. I mean, think about it. Your pastor knows darn near everybody, right? And if you can't see the pastor, see the pastor's wife. Pastor's wife is the one that, you know, needs to know everybody, right? You know, and everybody knows who she is, or he is if the pastor is a female, she's married, or both, right? I guess in today's society, you could have a female pastor with a female wife, boom, right? So either way, you're making sure that you show it to everybody, right? Think about all your neighbors, going on whitepages.com and getting all your neighbors, or getting out the neighborhood directory. And calling people a street or two over. I used, you know, as soon as I found out about white pages, man, if I had that as a representative, gosh, I would have called everybody I knew that lived in a good neighborhood, done a demo for them, gotten their recommendations, and then just simply said, hey, do you mind if I call some of the people in the neighborhood and use you as a reference? And a lot of times I mean, you know, I can't tell you how many times I had somebody just give me a neighborhood directory, say, here you go, just tell them I told you to call. If you build enough of a connection with somebody, they'll hook you up. Okay? So being a friendly neighbor is big. You know, here's other things, guys, that I would write down. Going through and friending all of your friends' parents on Facebook, or parents' friends on Facebook. Guys, that's so easy to do, right? I mean, your friends' parents, they want to snoop on you anyway. They want to know what their kids are up to. And for your parents' friends, you know, those are easy appointments to book up. You know, again, Facebook, back when I was a representative, it was something that was just getting rolling. Right? I mean, it wasn't something I had access to. You know, so going through and friending them all, getting that as a list for you is something that can help you out, because, you know, you could send them a message saying, hey, I don't know if my name rings a bell, but, you know, I'm such and such's son or such and such's daughter. You know, and the way that you could kind of figure out, like, you know, how friendly they are with your parents, you just look to see which of those parents' friends have the most number of connections together. Right? If they've got a lot of connections together, that leads to a lot of additional appointments, and chances are they know them pretty well. Okay, so so that's big. Using Facebook, also LinkedIn. A lot of parents have LinkedIn nowadays. You can use that to be another great resource for additional appointments. Using the thought jogger sheets, another way, guys, because there's a lot of people that you probably know that you didn't even think you did know. You know, here's another thing. If you're coming up with a list of people to think about, if you played any sports, who were all your teammates? Who were all the people that were on your teams? If you did cheerleading, who were all the cheerleaders? Right? If you did, you know, band or debate or theater, who were some of the people that were in the plays? Because in all of those groups, guys, parents go to the events to support their kids in a lot of cases. Right? So you could just simply call and say, hey, I don't know if my name's a bell, but I did debate with your son, such and such. Or I don't know if my name's a bell, but I was in theater with your daughter blank. Okay, so that's a really big one. There is using that to help you get additional names and numbers. Okay, think about people that you applied to college with it, right? Anybody that helped you apply to college, any scholarships that you applied for, you had a contact person. Okay? Anybody that you did personal training with, or that cut your hair for a living, or that, you know, did any other type of service. Anybody that you paid money to for any reason at all. Maybe the person that fixed your car, maybe the person that cut your hair, maybe the person that did your nails or does your nails. Whoever you see that does anything for you, right? Okay, be brainstorming that. If you're in a fraternity or a sorority, anybody on the alumni directory could be huge. I know we had one representative that was in our Marietta office. He called every single person in the alumni directory and just simply said, hey, I don't know if my name is Bell, but I'm actually one of the brothers at blank fraternity, and I was calling to see if you could help me out. And he just ran through the approach, and he also let them know that he was donating a percentage of his success in sales back to the fraternity in the form of a donation. Great way to generate. If you've got a big social group in any way, shape, or form, like if you're part of the Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts, going back through, calling every single person, maybe that becomes your why that you're working so hard for, and you take a percentage of your sales and you donate it back to help sponsor one of the big trips or events or gatherings or whatever other important thing you participated in. Great way to get appointments, great way to feel good about what you're doing and helping to give back to your community socially and contributing. Okay. Going back through, you know, your Facebook, right? Go through the friends section of your Facebook and emailing every single one of them. For those of you trying to qualify for, you know, PR trips, stuff like that, you can use that anyway, but use that. You know, so brainstorm all the organizations that you're a part of. clubs, volunteer organizations, bands, sports, fraternity sororities. Find any of those organizations' websites and reach out to them. Right? I mean, maybe there's a head person that you could reach out to that could help you. Maybe you're part of a youth group at your church. Who's the head of the youth group? Can you see them? Okay? And here's the thing, even if somebody else on the team has probably already called them, doesn't matter. You haven't. And you may be able to get that one booked up. You know, I'll tell you, I've had people that have, I mean, I can't tell you how many times in this office we've had somebody that said, yeah, I saw 4 or 5 presentations, didn't buy from any of them, but now I bought from you. That's a great feeling, by the way. Okay? So helping to prepare yourself is important. And here's the biggest thing that helped me as I was starting to think and formulate my attack list. I went to those chicken list people. People that when I got to their name, I was like, man, I don't know. Talking ex-high school girlfriends, parents, you know, that was a little awkward, right? But they bought. And you know what? You know, they reached out to me years later to see how I was doing. Like, hey, we just, you know, got our cut resharpened. Just want to say thanks again. Hope you're doing well. Looks like from the looks of it online, right? Things are doing pretty well because there was an article that was published about me when I donated money to GCSU, you know. So another place to reach out, okay, could be if you have brothers and sisters, their friends, parents. Also, brothers and sisters, ex-girlfriends' parents. You know, I had one of my biggest orders my first summer was my little brother's ex-girlfriend's mom. I drove 45 minutes to an hour away. It was in High Point, North Carolina. Drove all the way there. The lady told me she definitely was not going to buy. Mrs. Harsgaard was her name. She ended up buying like $1,200 worth of stuff. You know, we used to have something called a whitewashed homemaker set. The block itself was like a whitewash, almost like a beachy looking color. Okay? Looking back on it, I'm wondering why we ever did it. But at the time, it looked pretty cool. I used to promote it for beach houses. And she ended up buying one. She bought a couple extra things, recommended me to 10 people. Those are good customers too. So, you know, it's just one of those things where you have nothing to lose by giving it a shot. But I will say that if you want to be ready for the push by the time that we get to the big monster phone jam, the Saturday and Sunday before it starts, you want to have a minimum of 200 names and numbers, ideally 300, and really take some time to brainstorm. And when you organize them, put them out on a tack list where they're actually listed out in order, okay? Or they're typed out on an Excel spreadsheet. Guys, don't have it sitting where it's kind of written randomly, because when you have things written randomly, you play the flip game. You know what I'm talking about? It's like when you look at your recommendations, it's like, all right, I'll call her. Nope, not going to call her. Nope. And you're like flipping through, trying to find the right person to call, and that flip game wastes a lot of time. So get it organized onto a tack list. That'll help make your phone time a lot more effective. Okay? So that is the first section, is preparation and preparing yourself for success. The next topic is going to be on phone skills. Now, phone skills is something that, again, is my least favorite part of the job, but something that helped me with that was coming up with the formula that was given. It was actually given to me, but using the formula where I found out the value of a phone call. Okay, so to come up with the value of the phone call, what I want you to do is you write down how many calls it takes you to book up an appointment. Okay. So let's just say we'll use a $10,000 push, and we'll work backwards from that to show you how much each phone call you make is worth. So if you sell $10,000, okay, if you're at 0, which I know many of you guys are higher than that. If you're on this, you're probably higher than that. But that means you make $2,000 in income. Okay. So to take 10,000, divide it by a $250 average order, okay, which our divisional average is 300, so let's just use 300. So if you take 10,000, divide it by 300. So what we did basically is we said 10,000 is equal to $2,000 in income. Divided by a $300 average order, what that gives you is basically $3,400 34 sales, right? 33 would be 9,900. So 34 sales, if you divide that by a 60% sales ratio, okay? So taking 30% or 34, somebody's got a calculator. Help me out real quick. Okay, so what's 34 divided by 0.6? And if you're at home doing this, you can do it there.
6.6.
Okay, so 34 divided by 0.6 gives you 57 appointments. And here's where it helps you to kind of be able to brainstorm, or be authentic about the number of calls. So figure out what your cancellation rate is. Meaning if you have 10 appointments booked up, how many actually fall through, right? Or how many actually get completed? So in most situations, if you've got 57 appointments, we'll just use an 80% completion rate. So if you take 57 and divide it by 0.8,
46.
divide it by 0.8, okay, you should get somewhere in the neighborhood of about 70 maybe. Okay, so you get 71 appointments getting booked up. Now, 71 appointments. Okay, so now here's where we're at. So just to kind of review, you're at 10,000 divided by a $300 average order gives you 34 sales. You divide that by a 60% sales ratio, gives you 57 completed appointments. 57 completed appointments divided by 0.8. And if you hate math, I apologize right now because I know this is making your head hurt. But if you divide it by 0.8, that gives you basically 71 booked up appointments. Let's say it takes you, just to be safe, let's say it takes you 15 or 20 calls to book up an appointment. Okay, so let's just use 15 in this case. So 71 appointments. Okay. You divide that by, for some of you guys, it will only take 10, but if you divide or times that by 15 phone calls, okay, so 71 times 15, you should get 1,065, if I did that right.
Yeah.
Okay, so 71 times 15 calls to book up an appointment,
1065.
1065. Now take 2,000 divided by basically 1,000 means that every single call that you make during the push is worth $2 to you. Now, here's something that's pretty cool. Let's say that you have let's say you have higher numbers than that. Like maybe you sell 15,000 and it takes you 1,000 calls. Well, if you make 3,500, that means every call is worth $3.50 to you. But let's just say it's worth $2. What that means is every time you hit a digit on your phone, it's making you 20 cents. So that means if you call a customer and let's say she's being rude, just say, no problem, Ms. Jones. I appreciate your call. You just made me $2. Now, you don't have to tell her that, right? But that's what you think in your head, right? You have the husband pick up and he's kind of rude and obnoxious to you. You're like, hey, no problem. Screw you, dude. I just made $2, right? You dialed the wrong number. Sorry, you have the wrong number. Oh, $2, right? Every time you make a call, you're making at least $2 to you. Now, in most of your cases, it's probably not taking you 15 calls to book up a demo. It may take you like 10. It may take you like 7. I'm going to talk about the different categories of calls here in a second, but let's just say it does take you that 15. If you want to get that many appointments booked up, it may take you a few more calls, okay? Knowing that every call is worth a couple of dollars to you gave me confidence. Now, again, that's if you're at 0. If you're at 25% and you go out and you sell 10 grand, well, what that means is at that level, you're already at 6,000. So you're going to make closer to 3 G's, which means every call is worth $3 to you. If you're at 50%, 5,000, which means every phone call is worth $5 to you. And so that always helped me sitting down making phone calls, knowing that that's how much each time I dialed was. Something else that I used to do, and this was something that I got from my original manager, Matt King, is I put on the back of my my wallpaper, right? Something that motivated me. So can you change the screensaver of your phone to be something that motivates you? Okay. Maybe it's maybe it's a new car, right? Maybe there's a new car that motivates you. Maybe it's that you want to have money saved up for school or spring break next year. You know, I talked about having those work hard, play hard goals. Well, one of the things that I set for my year this year was I said, you know what? I'm going to work my butt off so that in December, I'm going to Thailand. I want to go and I want to train Muay Thai kickboxing. I want to play with baby tigers. I want to play with baby elephants. I want to be able to go run near the Buddhist temples of Thailand. I want to be able to eat the indigenous foods. I really want to be able to experience an amazing culture, and the beaches are unreal. So I said, you know what? That's my mission. That's my focus. I said that is my work hard to play hard goal. Okay? So for you, can you put something in the background of your phone? When I was a representative, I used to have in the background of my phone a picture of a BMW M3. Because for me, that was my dream car at the age of 16 that I wanted to get by the time I was 30. And I had that there for a long time until I bought my M3 at 22. And then I changed it to a Porsche 911. I was very superficial back then, right? And so I had that as the background of my phone, right? And then I got that at 23. And then I said, you know what? I don't really need another car. I'm just, thinking about what actually matters. So right now in the background of my phone, I got my dog. I got Tyson, right? That's my dude, right? So that's one of the reasons why I work so hard, And so, as you start to get older, your values change, right? Eventually, sure, at one point it'll be my family, right? That'll be my why. But every time I hit that home button, I see my dog, and it's like, there he is, right? It reminds me why I'm working so hard, right? And so for you, can you do something? Can you put something in the background of your phone? The current wallpaper that comes up during certain screens is the picture of the Colosseum that I took at night. I went running at 4:30 in the morning when I was in Italy, and I was able to get up close, like picture almost as sunrise was coming up of the Colosseum in Italy. And it's kind of that whole mentality of working hard, being a gladiator, going out, doing something solitary and stressful that other people aren't willing to do, so that you have the ability to have what other people can't have. And so, having something that motivates you in the back is really important. So that value of a phone call is something that really helped me to be able to have a better appreciation for making calls. Another thing is, how do you break down those calls? Okay. And guys, there's different types of calls that you can make. The people that you know really well, usually for those customers, it's 1 out of every 5 you book up. 1 out of 4 pick up, 1 out of every 5 book up. You book up with most people that you know real well. So I just say 1 out of every 5 phone calls, you usually book up with them. People that you know of, I'd say it's pretty fair to say 1 for every 8 to 10 is about how many you'll book up. So for every 1, basically just say, hey, for every 10 calls you make, you'll book up 1. People you don't know at all, it's probably 1 out of every 15. And if it's people you haven't called in a really long time or haven't gotten a hold of, and you've been calling them over and over and over again, and you have no idea who they are, it's probably 1 out of every 20. Okay. But understanding that does, at least in my mind, lends the importance of actually focusing on calling and generating new people that you actually have a connection of or connection with to help you get additional appointments. It's not necessarily about selling more or less. It's about just increasing your phone efficiency. Okay, because the more appointments that you book, the more recommendations you're going to get, the more sales you're going to have. Okay. Another big concept that's so important is making calls at the right time. Okay, so we talk about the number of calls it takes to actually book, right? 1 for 5 for people you know well, 1 for 8 to 10 for people you know of, 1 for every 15 for people you don't know at all. Okay, but then making calls at the right time, and the best times to call are as follows. So Sunday, making calls all day is huge. I used to think that Sunday evening was like the best, but you know what, guys? Sunday in general is the best. You know, for those that go to church, calling people before church, I used to think like, oh man, you're gonna frustrate people. But guys, what we did during the SC1 push is we made calls before church happened, and everybody picked up, and people were in good moods. You know what? Maybe you have the Lord on your side a little bit there, right? Why? Because, well, they're heading to church. Nobody wants to be mean and nasty when they're about to walk in front of, baby Jesus, right? So I mean, I can't be nasty as I'm about to go to church, right? I always think of that scene in Talladega Nights. It's like, why is it, you're a little 6 pound, 8 ounce, 8 pound, 6 ounce baby Jesus, right? I mean, it's like nobody wants to be evil right then. You're calling people in synagogue, right? Hitting them up right beforehand. It's like they ain't gonna be nasty right before they got to step in front of the rabbi. Saturday morning might be a great time. So that early morning time, even on Sunday, is actually pretty good. After church, people feel kind of enlightened, right? They're in good moods. They're eating brunch, right? And here's the thing, guys. If somebody's in church, they're not picking up. So don't worry about it. I would actually be very, very, very curious to see how many people could get somebody to pick up during church. That'd be pretty special. Somebody be like, hey, I'm in church. Like, are you serious? So I think if you call them and they're in church, they're not going to pick up. So don't worry about it. Okay? After church, it's obviously great. So Sunday is a great day to make calls. And so if you just made it a mission, hey, every Sunday during the push, I'm not going to do any appointments. I'm just going to focus on getting my schedule booked up. And if you go to church religiously, go to church, right? I'm not saying skip church. That's the last thing I want to do is take your spirituality down to like a 0 because you're skipping church. I don't want to do that to you. Would never do that to you. So do what you got to do. Could you go to church on Saturday though? Right? Last thing I checked, the forgiveness happens on either day. Right? Didn't think like praying less was going to hurt you. Right? Go a different day. But I know for me, when I went to church, when I was a rep, during that Sunday, I tried to go to the morning service. I go to 8 a.m. Get it out of the way, right? I'll tell you, I felt really good about getting on the phone and doing other work after I'd done that. I know for me, there's a little adoration chapel that sometimes I'll peek my head into real quick on the weekends. I'm not usually there very long. I probably should stay longer, but I go in there and I say thoughts and send out positive vibes for people that, I think maybe need some positive vibes. To sit there, reflect a little bit, kind of have my head down, just kind of do my thing, send out my positive vibes, ask for forgiveness for things I've been dumb about, and then I move on, right? But can you find a way to, set out your phone time so you can make 200 phone calls, 150, 200 phone calls on a Sunday? Wednesday night, team meetings. You're in the office anyway. Big phone jams then. 100 calls then. So 150 calls on a Sunday, 100 calls on Wednesday. If you think about it, there's 3 Sundays and 3 Wednesdays of the push. That right there, guys, that's 750 of the 1,000 to 1,500 phone calls you need to make. Then every morning when we have our alliance meetings, and guys, the alliance meetings, they are every bit as important for you to make calls as they are to get instructional material. But if every morning you're in the office and you make calls from 8 to 9, you make 30 phone calls or 25 phone calls, what that does is that sets you up during the entirety of the push, those 14 days or so, to be able to make an extra, 300 or so phone calls, 300 to 400 extra phone calls. That gets you what you need in order to hit your goals for the push. Okay? You can easily make 1,000. Your manager will map it out with you one-on-one, but that's something that really helps out. Saturday, 100 calls, Sunday, 200 calls, okay? Making that happen is big. Okay. Other thing, guys, on the phone, when you make your phone, have your phone kit out. So what is your phone kit? It's the following things: having your phone approach, having your recommendation binder and all of your contacts. So phone approach, contacts, computer. Okay. Phone approach, contacts, computer, cell phone, objection sheet. Okay. And your manager can get you the phone objection sheet. And I'm going to talk about phone objections here in a second, but so contacts, phone approach, phone, chargers. Oh, can't stress how important it is to make sure you have your chargers with you. I'd recommend having a battery backup just in case, by the way. Have like a little portable little charger that you can carry with you just in case you need it. Right? You can charge it when you start to make phone calls. Have your phone plugged in. If your phone starts to die, you plug it into the portable battery backup. That way you have that with you. You never want to be in a position where a dead cell phone is what costs you the ability to hit your sales goals. I mean, can you imagine? Why did you not hit your goal? Well, my phone died. Right? worst excuse ever. A dead cell phone. Okay? So you never want to have that be you. Okay? Then, making sure that when you are making phone calls, get your voice prepared. Right? So how do you prepare your voice? Sing your favorite song. I don't care what it is. Okay? If you love country, sing country. Belt out Friends in Low Places or Burn It Down by Jason Aldean. Whatever you feel like, whatever your song is, you belt it out. Okay? If your favorite song is Bootsy Collins, sing out Bootsy. If your favorite song is Beyonce's Lemonade, then sing out Beyonce's Lemonade, or whatever else you need to sing to get your vocal cords kind of warmed up. Go yell in the shower if you need to. Gargle mouthwash or something to kind of wake up your voice. But you want to sound excited to talk to people. Okay? You want to sound excited. Gentlemen, raise your voices an octave or two if you need to. Okay? If you sound a little more feminine on the phone, that does actually help you be able to book up appointments with Miss Jones. Because she's not as intimidated. You call her and go, hey, Miss Jones. They're going to be like, oh, gosh. So there's a monster on the other end of the phone about to try to come over. Right? But instead, you raise your voice an octave or two, or you just sound excited. Think about, guys, if you ever called somebody, two different people that were at the same party, and they had two different complete impressions of what was going on. It's the same party, it's the same deal, but based on the way one person talks about it, you want to go. Based on the way somebody else talks about it, you're like, screw this. Right? You're like, I don't think my parents really want me to leave the house. Right? You talk to one and you're like, man, you've got to get over here. Everybody's coming over. The music is awesome. Everybody's about to jump in the pool. Johnny's about to jump off the back deck and do a backflip, right? Whatever the case is, right? You're like, I've got to get over there. I don't want to miss out. Got somebody else, they're just like, yeah, I'm kind of tired. Probably going to leave soon. Glad I washed my car. You're just like, you're just bummed out. They're not going to want to talk to you. So when you talk to your customers, you need to be excited to talk to them. Okay? Like you want to be the highlight of their day, even if all that you experience is just that phone call. If they get off the phone and they're like, man, I'm feeling pretty good. Right? That's good. Right? So being the highlight of their day is a big deal. All right. Let's talk about how to handle objections for a second. Okay? When you're handling objections, most important thing you could do is always make them laugh. If you make them laugh, they're going to be excited to talk to you. They're going to be a lot more willing to have you come over. So in almost every objection, there's a way you can make them laugh. Let me give you a couple examples. If somebody says, what are you selling? Right? You say, Miss Jones, what are you buying? And they're like, well, nothing. Well, like, well, in your case, I'm not selling anything. What I'm showing is really good stuff called Cutco. You probably have already heard of it, right? Or if they say, what are you selling? You say, oh, no big, nothing real big, just some barnyard animals, mostly cows and sheep. But don't worry, I'll leave most of them on the porch when I come in. And they're like, what? I'm like, no, I'm just kidding. Right? Baby alligators. Just want to say underwater screen doors. Right? Yeah, I know. It takes some time for some people to get it. Inflatable dartboards. Right? There's a lot of little things you can say that, as people start thinking about, wait a minute, that doesn't work. Right? If you have really clever customers, they think it's like the most hilarious thing ever. If you have customers that maybe aren't the sharpest knife in the drawer and you say inflatable dartboards, they're like, well, why would anybody want that? No, I get you. Right? So, but getting them to laugh is big. Okay. If they say, you know what, I've seen the presentation 100 times. Say, oh, really? Well, Miss Jones, you are in luck. The record is 101. And just by seeing me, I'm going to give you some free stuff then for breaking the record. Because you're going to sell. So you're going to hook them up with some free stuff. Or you're going to give them a peeler for giving you 20 recommendations. But either way, you're going to get them something free for seeing you again if they've already seen the demo 100 times. Okay? If they say how long is it going to take? Okay, don't say 45 minutes to an hour. That sounds miserable. Okay? If they say how long does it take, say, oh, Miss Jones, not too long, only about 6 or 7 hours, but don't worry, I'll bring my own sleeping bag. Like, no, I'm just kidding. My part's only 30 to 45 minutes. After that, it's up to you. How long does it take? I don't know, a few days usually, right? If they start asking questions about how much does it cost, you guys ever hear that one before? It's like, well, how much does this stuff cost before you come do this appointment, right? So, Miss Jones, I'm not going to let you spend any more than 10 grand. No, I'm just kidding. Literally, Miss Jones, it costs $0. If you don't like anything, don't spend $1. In fact, you can hide your checkbook as soon as I pull up if you want. Okay? But getting them to laugh is so big. Okay? If they say, well, how long does it take? Right? Or, hey, can you just say you came over? Right? Do you ever hear hey, if you could just say you came over? Right? It's like, hey, Ms. Jones, we actually have a short version of the presentation or the normal version. What would you rather have? The short version? Okay, I tell you what, the short version is pretty simple. Just go ahead and give me your credit card number. I'll get you the most popular thing. No, I'm just kidding, Ms. Jones. But no, I can't. Honestly, I can't lie to my manager. They're pretty good to me, and I actually want to move up with the company and maybe get some advancement experience. But I will be able to give you my 15-minute guarantee. If you don't see anything you like in 15 minutes, or if I smell funny, just let me know and I'll be sure to leave. Right? Now, if you smell funny, then I would say maybe if you don't like my haircut, right? Right? So like if you got a little bit of the funk going, it might not say, if I smell funny. Right? Another good point, make sure to bring breath mints with you. You're doing a lot of appointments during the day. You don't want to be coming in with a little halitosis. That does not need to be the first experience Miss Jones has with you. There's a little funk breath. Okay? Don't be eating a lot of cheese before every presentation. I think about that scene in Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Charlie eats a whole block of cheese right before he goes on a date. It's the most hilarious scene I've ever seen. But anyway, oh, it's so hilarious. But anyway, making sure that you have, a positive, upbeat phone, getting them to laugh is always critical. The other big key to handling phone objections is to understand you always have to offer 2 times. After you handle an objection, offer 2 times with your follow-up question. If you don't offer them 2 times, what will end up happening is they'll be easily put you off. Okay. So always end with 2 times. So you know what, I could actually squeeze you in. Now let's say you only have 1 time to offer for the entire day. Like that's the only time you have left for the entire push is like Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Okay, we'll just offer like 2 o'clock and 2:15. Hey, Ms. Jones, I can swing by at 2 o'clock or 2:15 be better. Right? And they'll laugh and they'll be like, well, they're about the same time. You're like, no, which one's better though? All right? Or you can offer 30-minute intervals, right? If you're wanting to use the 15-minute guarantee, by the way, my favorite thing to use with the 15-minute guarantee is give 2 different times that are close to one time and then offer another set of 2. So for example, let's say you're trying to book up a 2 o'clock and a 4 o'clock. You say, Michelle, I'll give you a 15-minute guarantee. If you don't see anything you like in 15 minutes, just let me know and I'll be sure to leave. If I smell funny, just same thing, just let me know and I'll be sure to leave. I can either see at 1:45, 2 o'clock, or would 4 o'clock, 4:15 be better? It sounds like 4 times, but it's really just 2. Does that make sense? And it also makes the time sound smaller, like the presentation isn't super long. Okay. And then of course, when you book up with the 15-minute guarantee, make sure to actually like book it, like tell them, hey, again, remember if after 15 minutes you don't see anything you like, let me know. So that way when you go to the demo, you just do your normal demo. Okay. So that way you put the ball in their court, right? Say, hey, remember, if you don't see anything you like, just let me know and we're good to go. So now that way, you just go and you do your normal demo because within 15 minutes, you've at least cut the penny, right? So those are a couple of big keys on phone skills. On recommendations, okay? Recommendation, this is one of my favorite parts of helping people to have big pushes because if you want to have a big push, you need to be able to build your recommendation base big time. So how do you build your recommendation big time? Well, first things first, you've got to create a recommendation binder. Okay, recommendation binders are really important because what they do is it allows you to actually show your customers why you're working so hard. Okay, and all you do when you set up your recommendation binders, you have your goal sheet on the front. If you're creative, you can kind of decorate it, but you just create a little goal sheet that's got a thermometer of what you're trying to hit for, you know, either the push or for a contest or for whatever you're shooting for. You also have some of the different, you know, things that matter to you, right? So for example, this is Adiz, and Adiz got, you know, her education here, and she's a nursing student. So she put education and around it put symbols of you know, of being a nurse, right? Stethoscope, little nurse's hat, right? Okay, so so having things that matter right there. Maybe it's a picture of your family. Maybe it's a picture of your alma mater. Maybe it's a picture of the school you want to go to. Yeah, but you have all of the different things sitting right here in front of you that you're driven by. And then on the back, what you do is you put down your sponsorship sheet. Okay? And so in that way, they see all your sponsors. Then when you get to the end, what you do is you open up. When you go to your recommendations, you flip so that everybody they're seeing is giving you 10 or more. And if anybody doesn't give you 10 for whatever reason, right, you just keep flipping, right? You know, you just take them and put them in the back of the book. Does that make sense? So now what are they seeing everybody's giving you? Everybody's giving you 10. Does that make sense? And so then nobody wants to be that person that gives you less than 10. So the expectation is just you're getting 10. And there are 2 reasons why people give recommendations is they like you and they like the product. Everybody likes Cutco when they see Cutco. Okay? You know, and if they do the presentation the right way and you set up your binder for success like this, they're going to like you. Okay? The only other thing is asking the right way. So you got to have the recommendation approach memorized. It's only 8 sentences. A recommendation approach is only 8 sentences. So getting that thing memorized, you know, if I told you that I'd give you $100 cash for having the recommendation approach memorized, you'd have it memorized by tomorrow. But yet, for some reason, people don't memorize the recommendation approach, even though every rec they get is worth at least $20 to them. So you want to get that thing memorized so that you have it. It's 8 sentences, memorization, memorization, memorization. So important. Okay. Let me show you what you could do before the presentation starts to make sure that you're getting the recommendations. So the way that this process works is it's called open, close. Okay. So open, and close. Second thing is you thank them. Third is you've asked if they ever heard of Cutco. Fourth, you let them know you're not a knife salesperson, or not just a knife salesperson. And then the last one is your why. Okay? So if you want to get a ton of recommendations, you follow that process. So open and close, thank them, ask what they've ever heard of it, let them know that they're not just a nice salesperson, and then really explain why you're working so hard. Okay, so when you let them start the presentation, now recommendations really starts when you're building rapport. Okay, so when you start though the presentation, here's what you do. You say, hey, what I'm here to show you is Cutco, but before I show you that, I really want to thank you for agreeing to see me. Okay? Right. As a matter of fact, the company pays me $15 just to show you the product. So what you're doing, they already feel good about helping you now. They also, at the end, when you talk about getting recommendations, they're going to feel good about helping you then too, right? So, hey, before I show you, what I'm here to show you is Cutco, but before I do that, or you can just take out your blue book, right? Right. What I'm here to show you is Cutco. And I always like to kind of open it and then close it just so it's like, hey, I'm going to start, but let me show you why I'm really working, right? And before I do that, I really want to thank you for agreeing to see me. Company pays me $15 just to show you the product. Have you ever heard of Cutco before? Now, here's where you start to really build some sales expectancy, okay? You ever heard of Cutco before? No? Okay, well, just so you know, the product is amazing. In fact, the reason the company pays me $15 is because it is so great and I am pretty good at what I do. So don't be surprised if you see something you like. Everybody does, right? Or what I used to say is, Mr. Jones, don't be surprised if you end up buying something. 90% of my customers do. So now it's like, boom, you're selling. Okay, now if you're not selling at 90% or something like that, just say, hey, don't be surprised if you see something like everybody does. Because even people that don't buy like Cutco. So you say, don't be surprised if you see something like everybody does. But what I want you to know is that I'm not just a knife salesperson. Actually, the reason why I'm working is, and then you go into this. You show them your why, you show them your recommendation binder, and what you're doing right there is you have just pretty much set it up so at the end you're getting recommendations. See, because some people will recommend you to people because they think that they'd like the knives. But people will recommend you to everybody if they're tied into why you're working. And your goal right there should be to show them that you're not the stereotypical lazy college kid. When sleeping in till 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the afternoon, you're rolling in, haggard, right? You're showing them you're different. You're showing them that you've got drive, you've got ambition. And when you show them all of those things, what happens is they come back with a completely different level of appreciation for what you're doing. In fact, my goal was always during this section was to have customers say to themselves, I wish my son was more like him. So I used to say that. You say, Ms. Jones, the reason why I'm working so hard is because, when I first started, I was, I'd say, just so I'm not just a knife salesman. Actually, the reason why I'm working is I'm actually going to school to be a doctor. That was my original plan when I went off to college. I wanted to be a doctor. Then my first semester or so, I realized I did not want to be in school until I was 32. And I ended up switching to business. But what I did tell myself when I switched to business, I said, Ms. Jones, the reason why I'm working so hard is because I actually want to run my own business one day. I want to be able to give back. I want to help coach and mentor people. I want to help create success for other people. And the reason why I'm doing this job is to help improve my communication skills, my goal setting skills, my interpersonal skills. And so every time I do an appointment, it's helping me out with that and also helping me to be able to pay for school because I didn't want to rely on mom and dad to have to pay for school. All right. And so when I shared that with customers, it was like, all right, this is not just a normal knife salesperson. Okay. When people buy into your dreams and your goals and your vision, Okay. They may not buy everything, but they will sure as heck recommend you to everybody. So that becomes, the beginning part. Now, also during rapport building, try to find 10 contacts that they mention by name that they can recommend you to. So how do you do that without making it seem really weird? Okay. Well, think about the big 5 groups people hang out with. You've got neighbors, people from church, people from work, their kids' connections, and then their family. Okay. So if you just make sure that you kind of slowly work your way through that. Now, the church ones is kind of a funky one, right? Don't really want to be talking about that before you start a presentation, unless like they go to church, like you go to the same church they do, or like you're of the same belief system, right? Whatever the case is, right? You got to be kind of careful with that one. It's kind of like politics, right? You don't want to lob a grenade in the middle of the demo, okay? So when you're going through and talking about the different processes here, here's what you do. So when you're driving into the house, look for houses and neighbors that have, big time homes, right? Think about neighbors, think about people that live in the general vicinity of where that demo is. If you ever find a neighborhood on the way to another neighborhood that you would really like to do demos in, write it down. Like, oh man, that's blank neighborhood. And I was on the way, and you say that right there when you're talking. It's like, yeah, I was on the way in, and it's really pretty drive. I actually saw this neighborhood called Country Club of the South. Right? Do you know anybody lives in there? And a lot of times I'm like, man, I wish, right? Wish we lived in there. But you at least toss it out, right? The other thing is when you're on the front porch waiting to do the demo, point out different homes that are in that area that you'd like to do appointments in. So for example, like let's say what I always look for is I look for homes that had signs of kids, like bikes and basketball goals and trampolines and kid stuff, right? I would look for that and say, oh man, I couldn't help but notice the trampoline over there. Do they have a lot of kids, or is the dad just a big kid? A lot of times, like, oh, both. Like, oh, are they pretty cool? Like, yeah, such, right? So now you're talking to them. Well, if they say they don't know anybody, say, oh, what about the neighbor with the trampoline? And if somebody's got like a beautiful garden, they probably spend time out in their yard. So you mention, oh yeah, like I know in my neighborhood, there's 3 neighbors that are always out in their yard. One of them is my neighbor right to my right. Okay, crap came now. I just blanked on his name, right? But they're always there, right? They're always there. I think Greg's is the name. There's the old lady, the widowed lady across the street, who's out kind of tending her bushes and stuff like that. I got my guy up north of me, and then there's another guy who's real nosy, who's like 3 houses down, right? He's like the neighborhood watch guy or whatever. But yeah, they're always out in the yard. And so if they got a pretty yard though, they're usually out in it. Okay. So neighbors is really big. Another one, okay, that you could do is come up with 3 different areas that you'd like to do demos in and just mention that at the end. Don't do that during, but at the end. Okay. Now, also during the rapport building, talk about what the kids do for fun. What do the kids do for fun? Right. So Michelle's 8, so I saw you got a couple kids. What do they do for fun? They play music. They do sports. They just play video games. Oh, I hear you. Well, do you have them involved in any extracurricular activities? Yeah, little Johnny plays baseball. Oh, cool. How's the team doing this year? Right? You start talking about baseball. I remember those days, right? I didn't play baseball. I played soccer though. I remember the little kids' sports. I remember, thinking it was so competitive when I was little. And I've actually had a chance to watch my niece and nephew play. And, it's a lot of fun, but I think it's more intense for the parents even than some of the kids, And you start talking about that. And all of a sudden they're like, yeah, their coach is kind of nut. But now they're mentioning other people that they know. Or maybe they mention cheerleading. Like, uh-oh, are you one of the hardcore cheer moms? She's like, oh yeah, I get into it. Well, now she knows every single other of the cheer moms. Right? you can get all those recommendations. Okay, so you start working your way through that with all those extra people, and that can be big for you. Okay, asking what husband and wife do for work. That's a big one. Okay, so hey, where do you guys work? Now, are you able to? And a lot of times, if you're meeting like a housewife or a house husband, right? They'll be like, oh, well, such and such does this, but I just kind of stay home. You're like, oh man, you got the real job. So I'll tell you guys that whoever is the mom or the dad that has to stay home with the kids, that's a lot of work. People don't think about it, but I could not do that. I mean, it is a lot of work. I've got a couple buddies whose wives, are stay at home. They stay busy. They've got to coordinate a lot of things, and I will tell you, the ones that don't stay that busy, those are the ones that, you're not going to get a hold of them anyway, because they may not be busy with like staying involved with the kids stuff, but they're just busy themselves because they're self-involved in themselves, right? So, but that's something that's really big, is just making sure that you're coming up with a lot of connections before you start. So that way at the end, when you ask, they give them to you, okay? Now, when you get to the end and you ask for recommendations, all right, there's a couple sentences that you can say that lead into it that help eliminate objections. So the first thing that you say is you say, Ms. Jones, what do you think of my demo? Did I do a good job? Okay, so Ms. Jones, what do you think of the presentation, right? When you say, Ms. Jones, what do you think of the presentation? They say, oh, you did a good job. Now you know they basically said they like you. Hey, what do you think of Cutco? It's pretty cool, isn't it? All right, what do you think of Cutco? It's pretty sharp, right? I'm like, yeah, this stuff's pretty awesome. All right. And then the next question you can ask is, Ms. Jones, if they had the time, could you think of any reason why somebody would mind looking at Cutco? If they had the time. And that's the most important question to ask. If they had the time, could you think of any reason why somebody would mind looking at Cutco, if they had the time? Because when you say that in that phrase just like that, what it does is they sandwich the if they had the time with no. Because what is the only reason why somebody would mind looking at Cutco? If they were so busy. Other than that, people don't care. People like seeing it. It's a fun demonstration. So when you say, Ms. Jones, if they had the time, could they give any reason why somebody would mind looking at Cutco? If they had the time? I'm like, no, not if they had the time. You say, great, well, there's one more really important part. Here's you can really help me out. Boom. Then you go straight into recommendations. And then they basically have already told you they're going to give you recs. Right? Any objections that you can get, guys, can pretty much be handled by just saying, you know what? Keep in mind, Ms. Jones, they can always tell me no. So like, let's say they say, oh, I can't think of anybody. We'll kind of redirect a little bit. It's like, Ms. Jones, hey, I appreciate you thinking of people that you think would buy, but keep in mind, I could show it to anybody that works and eats. Most people use their cell phones, and keep in mind, they can always tell me no. It would really help me out. Another great tip on recommendations is blame me. Blame your manager. Okay? Here's how you blame me. You say, Ms. Jones, hey, I understand if you can't fill up the whole page, but my manager would be mad if I don't get at least 5. Our manager would be mad if I don't get at least 10. I really want to make a good impression. If you say it like that, that works a lot better than saying, oh, my manager's such a jerk. He's going to hate me. I'm not going to hate you. I'll be disappointed. But also, if you're like building up your manager to be like a nasty jerk, well, then what'll happen is they'll be like, well, then why are you working for him? I actually had that happen one time. I had a customer call me. He's like, this rep says that you'd be mad if blah, blah, blah. And it's like, and I'm like, and so, I was like, well, I got nothing to lose at this point. I figured they already thought I was a jerk. So I just said, well, Ms. Jones, honestly, I appreciate you calling and telling me I really care about this rep, but I wish you'd spend as much time, just helping him out with a few recommendations as you are yelling at me. She's like, how dare you say that? I said, hey, I'm just being honest. If you'd written down a couple people, it would have saved you time versus calling and yelling at me. But again, so you saying that phrase right there, really helps out. It's like, hey, Michelle, I understand if you can't fill up the whole page, but managers will be mad if I don't get at least 10. You know, and the other one is, oh, you're so close. You're only 2 away or 3 away if they don't get you to 10. That number 10 needs to be like a minimum for you. Like, here's what you could say if you're like close to 10. Ms. Jones, why don't you go ahead and put down the person you know would say no. I just need to get 10. Now, once they give you as many as they're going to give you, the qualifying part is the part that I really love, because this is what makes your job better later. So here's what you say. You say, Ms. Jones, out of all these people, which of these people do you think, if they wanted to, could buy Cutco? If they wanted to. So out of all these people, Ms. Jones, which of these people could afford Cutco, you know, if they wanted to? A lot of times we're like, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Sometimes they're like, all of them. Sometimes they're like, I don't know, that's your job. You're like, all right, cool. Then the second one, if you want to take it even higher, is like Ms. Jones, and out of all these people, which of them do you think, if they wanted to, could get like the whole book? You know, if they wanted to. And sometimes they're like, that one. That's a really good customer, right? Then the last one, and last question, and you can say, hey, sorry to bother, but last question, if you were me, or if I was your daughter, or if I was your son, who would you send me over to see first? Which 3? And that way you at least get 3 good stars. So if you were me, or if I was your daughter, which 3 would you have me call first? Sometimes those are just like the really nice ones that they know would help you out. Sometimes it's like, you know, this person, she knows everybody. Right? So if you were me, which 3 would you have me call first? Or if you were my daughter, if I was your daughter, which 3 would you have me call first? Okay. Networking into $1 million homes. So the way you do that is ask, hey, Ms. Jones, I appreciate all this. This is what you do as they're still trying to think of people. You say, by the way, do you know anybody that, as you're polishing up your knives, say, by the way, do you know anybody that lives in blank? Pick 3 areas. I used to, when I was in Winston-Salem, I asked for Buena Vista, Bermuda Run, and Shamrock Estates. So think about your home turf, your home city. What are 3 areas that you'd like to do appointments in? For example, you may say, hey, who do you know that lives on the lake? I mean, says, you know anybody that has a lake house? Do you know anybody that lives on the lake? Or do you know anybody that lives in blank country club? Hey, do you know anybody that lives in whatever neighborhood? You know, I live in Swanee right now. So I'd say, Ms. Jones, who do you know that lives in Bears Best, River Club, or lives on, you know, and then I just throw out Morning View probably because that's a really big neighborhood. So Ms. Jones, you know anybody that lives in River Club or Bears Best or Morning View by chance? Because then you get into that. Pick like whatever the biggest neighborhood is that's nice in your territory where you do demos and throw that out. Then pick like something that's like super exclusive and high end. And then pick something that's like a country club or something else, right? You pick like a couple different ones, right? Where you say, hey, do you know anybody that sends their kids to, you know, for me, it was Forsyth Country Day. You know, Ms. Jones, Forsyth Country Day is one of our biggest rivals in basketball. Do you know anybody goes there? I'd love to be able to go there and talk jump. And I kind of laugh with them. But if you get recommended into that, that could be some great appointments for you. Okay? So asking there is really key. So, you know, that's the topic of recommendations. Okay? All right, so up next, we've got selling. So selling topics. And this is going to be some demo skill stuff. So this will be designed to help increase your average order, increase closing percentage, drive selling sets, and also how to do the close. So I did tell you at the beginning how to do the open and close, you know, why I'm working. I do think that that part is big. You know, saying the whole, you know, thank you for seeing me. Have you ever heard of Cutco? The reason the company, because that just sets the proper price or sales expectation. Because if they have the proper sales expectation, then what will end up happening is they'll have an open mind. If you ever have a customer that says, hey, just so you know, I'm not buying anything, like right at the very beginning, all you do is just say, hey, Miss Jones, have you ever heard of Cutco before? You're like, yeah, just so you know, I'm not gonna buy anything. You're like, hey, no, that's totally cool. The only thing I'm gonna ask you is just to keep an open mind. Because the reason the company does pay you $15 is because the product is so amazing and also I'm pretty good at what I do. So don't be surprised if you see something you like. A lot of people do. Unfortunately, a lot of customers see brand new reps. And so because of that, they don't know as much about the different products as I do, and they can't give them as good a deal as I can. So I'm going to ask that you keep an open mind. Again, it's not that often that you get a customer like that, but you can say that in an effort to kind of get them to be open for it. One of the big things with selling on the demo is understanding that people buy for two reasons. They buy for logic or they buy for emotion. Okay, logically, it makes sense for people to buy Cutco, right? I mean, think about it. You know, if somebody buys Cutco, they're going to have it forever. I think it makes sense for everybody to have it. The emotional side, you know, and so just on the logic tip, you got to make sure that you cover the 7 steps of the sale. So the 7 steps of selling logically is creating a connection, making sure you establish credibility, making sure you identify a need, making sure you show them a solution, finding a specific solution for them, which we'll talk about, asking for the order, and getting recommendations. Okay, those are the steps to logically selling our product. The emotional side is where a customer says, you know what, this is for me. It's where the customer feels, you know what, this is exactly designed for me to sell or to buy. And ways that you could tie it in to the customer purchasing is by making sure that you're relating it to things that they actually are interested in, right? And having the customer say that by having them actually come up with specific reasons for purchasing, okay? So let's go through and I'll kind of give you some tips on how to do it. So when you're talking about the company history, a couple of big selling points to talking about the company history is making sure that not only do you mention the fact that Cutco's been around since 1949, but also mentioning Miss Jones, we've had over $1 billion in repeat business. You know,
Wait, how much in a
$1 billion.
Oh.
$1 billion. Yeah, we had over $1 billion in repeat business. In fact, right now, about 42% of our orders are coming with people that already own it. So obviously, people like it. Now, here's what's also cool. If you've seen people that own Cutco, you can throw that in right there. Where you say, in fact, Miss Jones, almost everybody that I've seen that has Cutco buys more. So they really like it. Now, if you haven't seen a lot of people that own Cutco, maybe you've seen 3, and all 3 have purchased, you say everybody I've seen that has Cutco buys again. If you've not made a sale to people that own Cutco, then I don't lie. Just say a lot of people that might get it, right? So that's one thing that's big, establishing credibility. Another thing that's big is mentioning the fact that we also manufacture and make K-Bar, which is used daily by the military. So when you say that, and just also, Ms. Jones, we manufacture and make K-Bar too, which is used daily by the military. And when you say that, what that does is that also establishes credibility if they know about those branches of service, right? And if they've ever heard of K-Bar, instant credibility gets it there, right? Something else that you could do when you're doing the when you're doing the company history part is you can let them know that Miss Jones, right now we're doing about $1 million worth of Cutco a day. So people are buying about $1 million worth of Cutco per day. The more big numbers you can throw out there, the more that the price shock of the sets and stuff doesn't really hit them. Another thing you could say is, if you're still trying to promote selling sets, right? say, so Miss Jones, right now the company is selling about $1 million worth of Cutco per day. That's a lot of sets. Okay, so you're dropping the word sets in there. They're seeing there's a lot of people getting it. Okay. When you're doing the shears, okay, a great way to build value with the shears is after you cut the penny, after you talk about how amazing it is, what it's used for, before you tell them it stays sharp for 38 years, you say, just to give you an idea, high quality barber shears could be several $100s. And when you see next time you go get your hair cut, next time you see a stylist, ask them how much their scissors cost. And what's cool is that Michael's girlfriend is a stylist at Van Michael, or sorry, she's a colorist at Van Michael. And the person that cuts his hair, her scissors cost $500, both pairs. And so you just say, Michelle, just give me the high quality barber shears, especially if you can tell she does her hair and keeps it nice and stuff like that. Just so you know, high quality barber shears could be like $300-$400. Okay. Ours, and they have to be sharpened every 3 to 6 months. Now there's a reason for that. They're cutting hair literally 8 hours a day nonstop, right? But you say, hey, Miss Jones, high quality barber shears could be like $300-$400. And they have to be sharpened every 3 to 6 months. Our shears actually stay sharp for 38 years. And you don't even have to say anything more. You could just move on. Now, sometimes what happens right there is they're like, how much are these scissors? And that's exactly what you want them to say. And all you say is, oh, man, my mom didn't tell you. Or, oh, man, Susie didn't tell you. This stuff's expensive, but it's worth it. And most of my customers get them for free when they get their set. And they're like, oh, okay. Or if you're trying to, if you're just kind of having fun, you just kind of smile and be like, do you have a second mortgage on the house yet? You kind of smile and they're like, they kind of look at you like, are you kidding me? So Miss Jones, just give me an idea. High quality barber shears cost $300-$400. They have to be sharpened every 3 to 6 months. Ours will stay sharp for 38 years. And you can also, and most of my customers get these for free when they get their set. Or 90% of my customers get these for free with their set. Okay. Now, if you don't want to give them for free and you want to charge them for them, instead you say, most of my customers get these with their set. Meaning it's just part of it. And then you add that on as an extra. And that'll be an extra kind of tip I'll give you guys here in a second. Okay. So then as you go into having them grab out their knives, the disadvantages section is really important because that helps identify needs. So when you have them grab out their knives, what you want to do is you don't want to offend them. An offended customer will always say no. No matter how much they know they need something, you can't offend. Okay? Mm-hmm. Okay? So you never want to offend a customer. So what you do instead is whenever knives they pull out, you say, oh, perfect, right? Whatever they had, doesn't matter, right? You're like, yeah, it shows a lot of customers of mine, or a lot of Cutco owners used to own wooden handles. Hey, a lot of Cutco owners used to own plastic handles. The problem that they found are and then use your ooh face. Okay? So like get the grossest, like scrunch it up and like make it like really nasty. Okay, like as gross as you can make it, right? So because when you get the face like really turned up and like nasty and twisted, what ends up happening is the customers see that and they start doing it too. So when they see that face, yeah, see, so some of your faces probably in the screen are like kind of grossed out too, right? Do that. Okay, so when you see them pull out whatever knives they have, don't be like as soon as they pull them out, but here's what you do. So like, so shows you, a lot of Cutco owners use to own plastic handles, and what they found is that they're really slippery when they get wet. And so what can happen is their handles slip, and at the end of the handle isn't a puddle of water like a slip and slide, but the edge of a knife, which can be really sharp. Okay. Also, a lot of times they're pressed and then glued together. So while they look really sturdy, a lot of times they're just glued in, and over time in the dishwasher they wear down and they snap. Okay. So you're just throwing it out there. Again, the reason you always have to say a lot of Cutco owners used to have is because if instead you just attack their knives, oh, these are going to do this, these are going to do that, they may get offended. But to say, oh yeah, a lot of Cutco owners used to have that, here's what they found. Now you're using third-party testimonials. Okay? That's big. Now, if they already have a high-quality set like Hinkles or Wusthof, okay, that's a good thing. When I was a brand new rep, I used to think that was bad. And what I would do is whenever they would pull that out, I'd be like, crap. Instead, now I get excited. I just say, oh, Michelle, yeah, a lot of Cutco owners used to own Hinkles or Wusthof. And what they've actually found, the 3 complaints they had is that you had to sharpen them pretty much, regularly. And what's funny is sometimes the customer's like, well, I never sharpen these. You're like, perfect. Because they're going to be dull as crap. Because what happens is people buy them, they don't realize they go dull over time. They just think they always cut that way because it happens gradually. So then when you go to cut the rope, it's like terrible, right? Just submissions. 3 complaints. A lot of Cutco owners used to have Hinkles. We started showing the 3 complaints they had. You have to take extra time to hand sharpen them. You have to wash them by hand because they're not dishwasher safe. And they still need to be replaced every 7 to 10 years. So I'm excited to actually show you why a lot of people like yourself that already own and appreciate quality added to their set or replaced it with Cutco. So that's what you say. So after you tell them the 3 big complaints, so sharpen regularly, hand wash, replace every 7 to 10 years, you build them up to be a informed and educated consumer. See, so let me show you what, that's why I'm so excited to show you why people like yourself that already own and appreciate quality like to add to their set or replace it with Cutco. So now you then go from being somebody there trying to sell them something to be somebody who's trying to help them with a need still.
Can you repeat that one more time, like what we're supposed to say?
3 complaints?
Or after that.
Okay, so I'm actually excited to show you why so many people like yourself that already own and appreciate quality added to their set or replaced it with Cutco. And then you go into, the company history or whatever you're going into, the explanation of Cutco, right? Now, when you're doing either the video or the features and benefits part of the presentation, it's important to make sure that you're stressing the value and using the word expensive a lot. How do you do that? Well, there's 5 features that make Cutco the Rolls-Royce of cutlery. And the first time like when you cut the rope, you can cover it right then. Right, so this shows there's 5 features that make Cutco the Rolls-Royce of cutlery. The first one is that wedge lock handle. It's designed not to slip and to fit every single hand. Between the thumb and the forefinger, where the hand is strongest. It costs more to use this handle but it's worth it because it stays in your hand and it's comfortable. The second feature that makes Cutco the Rolls-Royce of cutlery is the thermoresin material. It costs more to use thermoresin than a cheap wood or plastic, but it's worth it because it's dishwasher safe. Okay. Costs more to use it, but it's worth it because it's dishwasher safe. Yeah. Okay. The third feature that makes Cutco the Rolls-Royce of cutlery, okay, is the full tang nickel silver rivets. All right, so so the full tang nickel silver rivets. It costs more to put steel all the way through the handle. In fact, it doubles the steel in a lot of cases. So that costs a lot more, but it's worth it because it's going to be durable and strong. Okay? Or it's worth it because it's going to be durable and it's balanced. Okay. Cool. The fourth feature is high carbon surgical stainless steel. Fourth feature makes Cutco the Rolls-Royce cutlery is the high carbon surgical stainless steel. And the high carbon surgical stainless steel, it costs a lot more to use, but it's worth it because it's going to stay sharp. It's not going to rust, pit, or corrode. And also, it's going to be easy to clean. It's got this mirror finish on it, so it wipes off and polishes beautifully forever. And last but not least, Ms. Jones, fifth feature that makes Cutco the Rolls-Royce cutlery is that edge that you've been able to see. Wedge lock handle design, the handle material, full tang and nickel silver rivets, the high carbon surgical stainless steel blades, and then the double D edge. Right? So it cuts on all three sides, forwards, backwards, and straight down. And you can weave that into a couple of different places, but you could do like the edge and the handle material and the handle design during the you could do like some of them at each point during the video if you want, but you're making sure you cover all five, because when you say it costs more but worth it, because what is their expectation for the price of the set doing? It's going up. The higher you make that, the easier it is to make a sale at the end. Okay, see, because most people, when you start off and do that presentation for them, see, they expect a set of knives to be like a couple $100 or $100. Why? Because that's what they see at Walmart, Target, Kohl's, those sorts of stores, right? The ones that don't last very long. Okay, but when you start going through and building up all the features, their price expectation goes up. Okay, and you can always show them, if at the end they still say they don't understand the price, you can always go back and handle the objection later, which I'll show you when we talk about closing and dropping down. Okay? Now, the next part of building value is making sure that when you talk about the guarantee, before you review the guarantee, before you review the different sets, okay, what you want to say is, it shows, there's 5 features that make Cutco the Rolls-Royce of cutlery, but the reason why everybody buys Cutco is because of the guarantee. And if this knife was $500, what type of guarantee would you expect it to have? Okay. It shows this knife was $500. What type of guarantee would you expect it to have? And a lot of times they're going to say, oh, like a lifetime guarantee. Sometimes they get kind of cute with it and they're like, oh, I don't know, like a forever guarantee. Or you better guarantee that thing forever. You're like, yeah, exactly. We have a forever guarantee. And what ends up happening is they're like, oh crap, that nice $500, this stuff's going to be really expensive. Okay. So when you show that guarantee, that's kind of how you say it as you're leading into it. I do like having customer testimonials that you can use. If you're not having the video that has the testimonials there, having people write down what they like about Cutco and what they use it for is really important too. Okay. And every time you see somebody that owns it, when they list out what they use it for, how long they use it, that sort of thing, what ends up happening there is that their people are seeing why people buy Cutco, and they see people that they know that own Cutco, which is big. The other thing is if somebody writes out a testimonial for you, they're convincing themselves of why they bought it to begin with, which then in turn helps them to get more. So you always get a testimonial with somebody, even if they've only had it for a year or two, because it kind of helps remind them of why they like it. Okay. So, so that's something that's really big. So identifying that need, building value throughout. Now, when you go to show the 3 larger sets, now I will say if you're not confident closing on bigger orders, stick with the close that you learned. Okay. The reason I say that is it's better to be supremely confident in a close you know than to try to experiment with something that you're really unsure about and then struggling. It is good to kind of practice a little bit this week and try on a couple of appointments before just to see how you like it. But for me, the sets that I used to close on were pretty much the Homemaker and the Ultimate. Okay. And then when the Signature came out, you could kind of go in between. But what I'm going to show you is how to kind of present those just real quick. So you just say, so Ms. Jones, we actually have 3 most popular sets are our basic, our newest set, and then our complete set. So you show the Homemaker, the basic set, and call it the basic. Guys, the Homemaker is basic. It's 8 knives, 2 forks, 8 table knives, a block, and some free stuff. Okay. It's not this massive like monster deal. Okay. I know when I was new, I used to be like, man, that's like this huge deal, right? It's a lot of money, but the sooner you start understanding that people that are homeowners have to spend $1,000 randomly on stuff all the time for their house, that's not going to have to be replaced, or that's going to have to be replaced pretty frequently, the less it becomes a big deal to be able to sell that. Okay. So hey, we have 3 most popular sets, our basic, our newest, and our complete. To find out which one would be best for you, let me ask you 3 questions. The first question you ask is, how many nights a week do you cook? Okay. Okay. If they say 1 to 2, that's average. If they say 3 to 4, that's above average. If they say 5 or 6, that's almost every night. Right? So what's important is not how they respond, but how you answer to it. Okay. Because if they say, a big number, like sometimes they'll say like 1 or 2, like it's terrible. But guys, keep in mind, they may only cook once or twice a week, but chances are they get takeout and take it home once or twice a week. They may have leftovers once or twice a week. And so, they're not actually physically eating out all that much. So how many nights a week do you cook? They say 1 to 2. Okay, cool. So about average. Okay. If 1 to 2 would be a Homemaker, 3 to 4 would be a Signature, 5 or 6 or more would be the Ultimate, right? Just as you're trying to process in your own head what they should get. Okay. Now you don't have to tell them that. Just in your own mind, that's kind of what you're doing. Okay. If you're trying to, the next question is, do you cook because you have to, because you like to, or love to? Or another one the way I used to ask it when I was a rep is, you cook because you have to, because you like to, or both? Okay. Have to is the homemaker. Love to is the signature. Both would be the complete set. Okay. And then if you're entertaining, how many place settings would you need? 8, 12, or 16? The reason I say 16 is nobody likes to pick the biggest. And if they do pick the biggest, boom. You can do a homemaker plus 16. That's fine. 8 table knives that come with the homemaker plus 8, and then 8 table knives to put in their drawer so they can replace them if they're ever in the dishwasher. Okay. All right. So 8, 12, or 16. Then what that does, that gives you kind of a starting point for kind of getting them excited. Now, if you're confident playing the video right then and there, you just click play and let it play through the other sets, right? That's fine. Then you upsell to a complete set if they pick the signature, okay? The way I used to do it is I did a price comparison. To kind of simplify that price comparison, all you would just say is, this shows most people haven't had the opportunity to price fine cutlery, but it's like anything else. There's a wide variety of quality and prices. Most people would agree that you couldn't compare Cutco to junk. So for high quality stuff, a set like the basic set from Germany would be about $2,000. The newest set would be $3,000, and the complete set would be $4,000. There are some differences between the two. The German brands are made overseas. They also are not guaranteed to stay sharp forever. And they also do not have our dishwasher safe policy. So if you talk to people that own Cutco, they'll tell you it's 10 times better than any knives they've used. Now, I know you haven't had a chance to use it, but most people would agree it's at least twice as good. Well, if something's twice as good, it should be how much price-wise? Twice as much, right? And so at twice the price, you'd be talking over $4,000 for this, $6,000 here, and $8,000 here. Now the best part is though that our complete set isn't $8,000, although it would be if it's sold in stores. As a matter of fact, it's not even as much as you would expect this set to be from the high-end German brand at $4,000. The essentials, or sorry, the basics. In fact, the basic set is only $244 a month. The newest set is only $388, and the complete set is only $550. If you're considering one of these three, which would you prefer? Okay, you find out which one they prefer. Boom, go into it. Hey, if you get this today, I can give you. And what I used to do for this is I would do $200, $300, $400 of the free stuff. If you want to keep it simpler, you could do shears for free, kitchen tool set for free, kitchen tools, and the barbecue tools for free. Any questions on this? Okay. Now, if you want to do a more in-depth explanation onto the essential or the ultimate set, the complete set, the way that you do that is you explain that the complete set is the basic set with the top 10 customer requested knives. So what this is for people that already owned a set of Cutco, them writing in saying, you know what, I need a bigger set. Okay. And when you're doing that, that's when you actually present, that. Okay. So for people that own Cutco, a lot of them will upgrade into a complete set. People that own Cutco, a lot of them wrote in saying, hey, I need a knife that can do this. And so that's how you present it. And just so you know, every tool has its own job. It lists every single one of them below it. I had a guy by the name of John Stonestreet that the way he used to, he sold over $96,000 worth of Cutco in one summer when we were up in North Carolina. And the way he sold that is he said, when customers were interested in the complete set, he just said, okay, cool. Here's what it comes with. It comes with a paring knife, which is going to be good for paring potatoes, apples, and pears. It's got the trimmer, which is good for slicing. And he would just literally read the bottom of each knife. So that's what it comes with. All right. So, but it's all about the way that you present it. If you present it like it's a big deal, people will think it's a big deal. If you present it like, hey, this is just what a good set costs, here's what it is, it's a good deal, lasts forever, guaranteed, a lot of times they'll go ahead and get it, especially if they're the right customer, okay? So I want to talk, though, for a little bit about closing, though, and dropping down. Because I found a lot of sales, especially having high average orders, it comes not from having like all sorts of complete sets, ultimates, and things like that, but on the way that you drop down. And when you drop down, the way that you're taught to drop, the way that I'm going to teach you to drop down is very similar to the way that you're taught when you're little on walking downstairs. Okay? But you got to make sure you're walking down the right set of stairs. Okay, and so the way you drop down is by showing the 3 sets. Then you go down to the custom, the starter sets. Then you go right down here to the customized options. And then last but not least is down to 1 knife. And so when you're little, your parents teach you a couple things. One, they teach you to hold on to the railing, right? So you don't get off track. Another one they teach you is to go slowly and also take 1 step at a time. So the same thing applies here. So whatever reason somebody gives you for not purchasing, use that as the reason why the next set of options is the best for them. Okay? What I've found for most customers is they either don't buy because it's too much for their budget or it's too many knives. If you do a great presentation on everything that I showed you, using all this stuff that we taught, those become the 2 reasons, either too much for their budget or too much or too many knives. So at the end, when you ask them, if they're like, no, I just don't think I can get that today, you could throw it out there. Hey, Ms. Jones, let me ask you, is it primarily too much for your budget or is it too many knives? And if they say it's too much for their budget, before you drop down and show smaller sets, show them the trade-in. And the trade-in is where you sell the basic set and give them the table knives for free, right? So by selling them the basic set, giving them the table knives for free, you lower the price of that set for them. Now, if you start at bigger options, though, and then drop down, that helps you, right? So I show in the complete set, signature, and then dropping down to the homemaker. The homemaker is like the small, that's like the drop down version, right? It's almost like the essentials used to be, right? Like, oh, that's just the small one. Let me just get the small one, right? So, so when you're dropping from the bigger sets down, ask them, so is it primarily too much money or is it too many knives? When you drop down to the starter sets, what you do is you use whatever reason they said they're not going to buy the bigger sets be the reason why the starter sets are so good for them. So for example, let's say they say it's too much for their budget. You know, Ms. Jones, the great thing about our starter sets is that they come with all the necessity tools, but they can fit in everybody's budget. I'm sure you'll love one of these. See, so your enthusiasm level stays really high instead of dropping. See, it's natural to be really fired up about the big sets, right? If you pop one of those, that's so awesome. But starter sets are still really freaking cool. And think about it, if all you sold every single appointment was a starter set of some sort, your average order would probably be $400 or $500, which I think everybody would take. The reason why some people don't have a $400 average order is they go from either a big set or they go to 1 knife or like a couple. It's never like the in-between stuff. So if you want to have that high average order, you got to be good at the in-between stuff. You also got to be good at selling accessories, which we'll talk about after this. Okay. So when you're showing the starter sets, okay, when you drop down and money is the issue, right? The great thing about the starter sets we're showing is they come with all the necessities and they're affordable for everybody's budget. I'm sure we're going to find one you'll love. And then you show them what each one comes with, right? So the galley set, this one is great for people that like the homemaker, but it's just a little too much for their budget. It takes out the butcher knife and the big carving set, but it still keeps everything else in it. Okay, so that's how you kind of promote that. Also, guys, the galley set is perfect for vegetarians, kind of like the vegetarian set, because it takes out the big butcher knife, takes out the master carving set, so they have everything else that a vegetarian would use. Okay. The Essentials +5 and the Studio +4. These are awesome. I like to call these the college kid sets. They're great for people going off to college as gifts because it comes with some of the bare necessities, and they also come with 4 table knives or 5 table knives, so they have something for their friends to be able to eat with. Okay. Also good for secondary homes or beach condos, and because they still get the job done, but you know, they're a lot more affordable. The Space Saver set, this is a perfect camping set, or good for RVs, campers, people that don't have any cabinet space. All knife kitchenette. This is for people that like to have all their knives in the drawer and not on a block. Now you can do the homemaker in trays too, just so you know. So you don't want to like not sell them a homemaker because they don't want to have it in a block, right? Sell them the homemaker in trays. That's totally fine. But these are good because they come with a lot of knives, and you know they still are still really economical. Then last but not least is the gourmet set, which this is for people that already own Cutco, and also people that have very traditional cuisines where they break their food down from scratch. They love the gourmet set. Okay. And when you present the price there, always make sure to give them a relation of how much it would be out of their weekly budget. And that's exactly what you do when you break it down on paper. So when you break it down on paper, the way that you do it, whether it be a set or anything else that you're trying to sell, is you write down how much something is today. Okay, so let's just say it's a homemaker set, right? Right, or two, actually with tax, I guess it'd be like $265, something like that, right? So it'd be this much today, right? This much in a month. So you do, I guess, end of July, August, September, October, right? We'll give you, you know, the $112, and maybe you throw something else in there, right? But you give you $112 super shears for free. And if you think about it, this only breaks down to being about $65 out of their weekly budget. So it'd be like taking the family out to Applebee's, okay? So whenever you write something down, like let's say it's let's just use a really basic one, right? So let's say somebody picks the Basic Studio. Basic Studio ends up only being about 88 down, okay? Okay, so here's how you kind of break it down. So let's say they pick Basic Studio. When you write, and you want to write all this stuff down, you can either write it down so they can see it and you're explaining it to them. I like to write it as I explain it personally. If you feel more confident just writing everything down and then explaining it, that's cool too. Either way is fine. So you say, so Ms. Jones, we'll go ahead and get you your studio set today. It'd only be this much down. It'd be this much in July, August, September, October. So you'd get your stuff here in just a couple of weeks, but you didn't have to finish paying for it till October. Also, for getting it today, we can actually throw you this $112 super shears for free. And if you think about it, this only ends up being about $22 out of your weekly budget. So it'd be about like taking the kids out for Wendy's. Do you think you could squeeze that in your budget? And then you use the Vector 9. Okay. And guys, I mean, if somebody has a job, period, they could afford a Basic Studio set. I had one of my first appointments was with a lady that made $8 an hour working at Pottery Barn. Right? Or sorry, no, Barnes and Nobles. What even Pottery Barn? Barnes and Nobles, $8 an hour, and she was able to afford a gourmet set. Now that's not your target market. Is not going to be seeing $8 an hour employees, but I just want to give you the example that if somebody really wanted to afford something, they could find a way. And I mean, she had to cook. She had a little daughter, and she had to cook. So it was like for her, the concept of eating out and spending money on food every day, no way. So she wanted a good set of knives that she could use. Okay. And so she got the gourmet set because she did actually know how to cook. She also would kind of work a part-time job a little bit every once in a while for a catering company. So she liked having good knives. Okay. So, but by breaking it down, the monthly breakdown is what allowed that to happen. Okay. So breaking it down, writing it down on paper, because when people budget, they budget on paper, not in their head. So some people, you start throwing numbers around in the head and it's like, it gets confusing. And it's like, no, I don't want to do that. Okay. So, so then as you write it down, as you break it down, that's something that, that helps you. Okay. The other thing, okay, that'll really help you out is making sure that you're selling accessories. And what's cool about it is once you get them closed on an order, going and showing accessories is really easy to do add-ons, because then you only talk about how much it is additionally each month. Okay? So for example, on that basic studio, to add $100 of CPO only really costs you about an extra, only it costs the customer an extra 20 CPO or $20 per month. Okay, so for example, let's say when you're going through, and I'm just going to show you kind of how to really sell some of these extra accessories. And then I'm going to show you a little bit about cookware and flatware, and then we'll be good to go. Okay. So when you're showing accessories, I still like to show kind of the bigger stuff, like just, name the headers, right? So we have a lot of flatware that people like to get, or extra table knives. Your set comes with however many it comes with. Is that going to be enough? Do you think you can just get by, or do you think you might need like 4 or 8 more? So just saying that, right? Since the table knives are, your set comes with blank, do you think that's going to be enough, or do you think you might need 4 or 8 more? A lot of times they're like, you know what, might as well add 4 more, right? Or 8 more. By the way, to add 4 more table knives is only going to add an extra, hold on, let me do the math real quick. It'll only add an extra 160 divided by 5. You're talking, what, an extra $30? Okay, so it shows that an extra 4 would only be an extra $30 today. Did you want to go and do that? They're like, oh, okay, let's do it. All right. Then, as you're creating the wish list, also the entertainer pack, going off on the entertainer pack, easy sell. So the entertainer pack is so awesome because it comes with the ice cream scoop, which it's really for any kid's birthday parties. Ice cream scoop, veggie peeler, pizza cutter, cheese knife. So Michelle, did you ever have pizza, ice cream, or veggie trays for the kids' birthday parties? The answer is yes, yes, and yes almost every time, right? Think about when kids have birthday parties and get-togethers. What do they have? They usually have ice cream and pizza for the kids. They'll have like cheese plates and meat dishes for the parents, right? So, so this is perfect for when they're entertaining. Okay. So yes, yes, and yes there. The wine opener, Miss Jones, the kids are having a party. You need to have your own wine, right? Boom. Here we go. All right. And then Miss Jones, you ever open up cans? Yes and yes is always the answer, right? What's awesome about the can opener is it's got a magnet. The magnet's so strong, it can hold our heaviest knife up by the handle. So it's perfect for when you're opening up cans. It's a non-slip grip. You put it over, it lifts it right up. Okay. The sporting and hunting knives. It shows anybody that hunts or fishes at all. There's not a better gift to give than that. Okay, if you know somebody that hunts or fishes, because ours are guaranteed forever. So you'll get them for it, and they'll be using it for the rest of their life. Also, if you want, I'll go ahead and I'll have it engraved for free if you decide to add it to your order today. And you add free engraving if they decide to buy it. That way they can personalize it. Okay. Ms. Jones, are there any guys that you buy gifts for that you have a hard time finding cool gifts? Oh, there is? Well, I tell you, all guys love our pocket knives. Everybody needs a good pocket knife, and ours are great because they have a lock back mechanism to them, and they're guaranteed forever. Okay. So do you have any guys in the family that are hard to buy gifts for? That's what I say when you're trying to sell the pocket knives, okay? And by the way, if you want to add that pocket knife on, it only adds an extra $10 today, or well, $15 today, depending on which one they buy, right? So by saying that, you're just adding on incrementally is big. Other accessories that sometimes people have a hard time explaining or selling, the barbecue tools. Shows the barbecue tools are awesome, right as long as from my elbow to the end of my hand. So they're super long, so you can grab your neighbor's burgers if you need to, right? It'll keep you away from the flame for the most part, okay? Which is pretty cool. You know, so stressing that helps you out. The garden tools. Shows the garden tools are that ugly purple color, so they stand out in the garden. You know, so you're not going to lose them. You ever lost garden tools? You're not going to lose these because of the purple. Okay, and they're made for the Georgia clay. They're super strong. You can back over it with a truck, and you're not going to mess up the steel. That's how strong they are. Right? Yeah, they're really pretty cool. Right? Other accessories that sometimes people have a hard time selling is gift sets. And if you want to add some gift sets are tricky because you don't want them to look at gift sets and be like, well, I just want to get a gift set then. You know, what you could do is you say, Ms. Jones, our gift sets are buy 3, get 1 free. So if you need extra Christmas gifts for people this year, a lot of people like to add that on and just get it done right while they're here. Okay? And then so what you do is you write everything down that they like, get them excited about a bunch of stuff. And then all you do is you take whatever everything would add up to normally, and then here's how you do the wish list. Because Ms. Jones, all of your wish list stuff, if you were to go buy it later, it would end up costing you this much. But because you're already buying your Cutco, you get hooked up with the friends and family discount because you're part of the Cutco family now. You just call it the Cutco family discount. All right. You get it for only, you just take this and basically divide it by 5, and you give about that much worth of free stuff to get the price down. So let's say that what they like is worth $500 normally. That way you give it to them $100 off. So you take so you only have to do this much. And since you're breaking it up today, it would only add an extra $80 to your payment. Did you want to go do that? So they're getting $500 worth of stuff for only an extra $80 each month. And guys, here's the thing. If somebody's spending $250 or $300, an extra $80 on top of that is not the end of the deal. End of the world. What I've found is you can usually add about 10 to 20% in value to the order by showing accessories with energy and excitement. Okay, so that means if they spend $100, you're not going to, you might get like one small thing added, right? If they spend $500, you might be able to get anywhere from $50 to $100 worth of stuff added to their order on accessories. If they spend $1,000, it could be a couple hundred. If they buy a signature or complete, you can make it really big. So the way to sell flatware. Okay, because I know a lot of times people have questions on flatware. So how do you sell the flatware? Well, the flatware, guys, is, first of all, it's incredibly valuable. meaning it is the biggest discount per item that we make. So for example, if they get the stainless steel flatware chest, it's 1810 stainless steel, which means it won't snap, rust, bend, or break. They can replace pieces individually. So if they ever lose one, they could buy an individual piece. So they're not having to buy a bunch of extra stuff, not having to buy a whole new setting. The other thing that you can stress with customers is it is guaranteed forever. And also because it's guaranteed forever, we'll hook them up with a sick discount where it's worth $2,077, but they can get it for only $1,335. I believe it's the price, $1,335, $1,331. So they save almost $700 by getting it. It's 60 pieces of Cutco. Okay. So our flatware is 1810 stainless steel. It's got a built-in $700 discount. Comes with a cherry finished storage block. It's stackable, guaranteed forever, and they can replace individual pieces if they ever lose them over time. It's a classic design that will never change. So it'll never go out of style. They'll always be able to get extras if they want. They're saving a lot of money. To add it to a set, right, would be probably an extra $250 per month. So again, if they buy a big set though, if they're buying an Ultimate for $600 a month or whatever, and they add that on, it makes it $850, which is again not super cheap, but they're getting an extra $1,300 worth of stuff. And if they add the flatware chest, we can give them an extra $250 worth of free stuff too. So basically what they're paying each month for the flatware chest, we're going to give them that worth of free stuff if they buy it. And the last thing I'm going to mention is just a couple of big selling points on our cookware. Okay, so the cookware, you know, in order to be able to order the cookware pot, you got to be at least $10,000 in sales to have it. If you have the cookware pot, you will sell it. It pays for itself basically the first time that you show a customer. I think you pay like $70 or so to get the cookware pot. But when you sell your first set, you'll make like a couple hundred. So it pays for itself really quickly. But the thing that's cool about our cookware is it's got 5-ply induction, which means it's stainless steel on the outside and stainless steel on the inside, and then 3-ply aluminum on the inside, which means it's a perfect heat conductor, and it's also easy to clean. We use low moisture cooking methods, which means you don't have to put a lot of water in it to cook. And it allows you to cook on low to medium heat. So you can cook things on low to medium heat and without having to use up a bunch of energy, a bunch of gas. Makes it very easy to clean as long as you use low to medium heat. If you ever do scorch anything, it's really easy. You put a little bit of water in the pan, heat it right back up, and it scrapes right off. And it'll look beautiful for years. And it comes with our forever guarantee. And actually during the conference on July 6th, we'll actually be showing the different set combinations for cookware and going over more features and benefits in depth. But what I've found is for people that like cookware, they either like it or they don't want it, and that's pretty much it. So to sell a set of it, it's pretty simple to do, but it's a lot of times it's just finding the right customer at the right time where they need new pans. Right? The great thing about our pans, if they buy them, they're done. They're done with their pans. And if they already have Cutco, it's easy to sell cookware to people that already own Cutco's knives, because like Michelle, you already have the best knives. This is the best cookware to go with it, because it's made in the same factory in Wisconsin that makes all of the super expensive high-end brands that you see at fair and trade shows, like Salad Master. Like their complete set costs like $5 grand or something like that. Ours is like $2 grand. So it's a big discount versus buying the the other brands. Cool. So so I went over a lot of stuff hopefully you have some questions, but, I will, send this out to everybody. So if you have it, guys, use this to your advantage. Make sure to meet with your manager, get part of our alliance, talk about getting to that meeting on July 6th. Thanks for your time. See ya.